My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Stalking. This is Ontario Police stalking. These are the ordinary bums. Gang stalking. That's audible activity, relevant positioning. The demons are stalking with light. West Coast arborists are maintaining alignment where I was at packing up my property. And this is Ontario Police gang stalking with the immigrant who's going to be deported. This is also a threat that the entity that's gang stalking together, blasting your music on the sidewalk where the entity is surrounding Leonida buildings. This is the entity targeting with Ontario Police. They're not going into the bathroom at the OVITT Family Community Library under the fake sun. They're not engaged in what is a health check under the fake sun at the OVITT Family Community Library. They're not engaged in traffic on the roads and the highways. They're engaged in criminal monitoring, license 1675813. And Balbier, 9EFH194, being deported. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police incriminates everybody. It doesn't help them. This is prison, by the way. It's not just deportation, it's prison. Yeah, that's P.O.C. It's the same pattern of conduct. All they did was inject themselves by being present. The entity that's gang stalking through corrupt police departments, they do so in furtherance of murder. They're the ones that engage in kidnapping. They're the ones that engage in what is facilitating that ongoing threat. This is also mental illness. He's monitoring with the gang stalkers, West Coast arborists, who get in perfect alignment with me with their vehicles' light activity. This is also, again, an entity that's engaged in stalking, conspicuous stalking with demons that surround you with loud music that's audible noise. This is where the fake sun is present in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. This is the entity that Mike LORENZ is going to be federally prosecuted for. Every kidnapper is also going to be prosecuted because they're going to prison. Okay? This is P.O.C. This is the banner for mental illness. This is the pattern of conduct. 506 North Euclid Avenue. It is currently 7:02 a.m. C. Torres, L. Martinez, B. Hook, Nathan Morgan, they're going to prison. Mike LORENZ and Derek Williams, they're going to be federally prosecuted as terrorist leaders, and a psychopath has nothing to say other than to walk in, and he's monitoring and doing so. Mental illness exhibited by the multiple shadows on the ground. Okay, that's pattern of conduct, and she's monitoring with the police. This is federal prison. I want to be clear. The gang stalking immigrants, likely, may very well be an immigrant working at the ARCO. Any of them that are immigrants, you're going to prosecute, but this is how the law is going to operate. This is a demon that's stalking. ARCO is stalking and threatening with the police. This is Engineer Light on the sidewalk right here. Not his headlights. That's a demon. That's mental illness that is shared by a demon that gets out of his vehicle and goes into the market, because the demons presuppose that they go make a purchase, and then that means that in federal court that they're not gang stalking. And it's proof of criminal presence. License plate 9MPH605 and license plate 7NWJ055. And this is what West Coast Arborist is doing over here, surrounding me with light activity at the corner. This is what they're doing. I already documented their images and the logo, and I documented what they're doing, stalking in the path. And this demon is a psychopath surrounding with a population of demons who maintain a fake sun over this parking lot until after 10 a.m. until I go to the library, when then that fake sun remains over the OVITT Family Community Library. And I'm documenting the Ontario Police Department stalking me by helicopter. This is the entity that's already surrounded with evidence. He's going to federal prison. And he's going to prison because a population is stalking in concert with him. He represents an entire agency that's conspired murder with Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields and Eric Corey Spencer. They're all going to prison. Tommy Allen Banks, engaging in criminal defamation. Ones that are mentally ill, calmly drinking his coffee. He's going to prison. Multiple shadows. That's not caused by artificial light. This is a psychopath. Stalking with helicopters, stalking in police vehicles, stalking wearing uniforms, bearing weapons is federal prison. And the gang stalking immigrants are being deported out of this country. 1675813 1061. This is P.O.C. I took an image of sex offenders that are representing the city of Ontario. That's Paul Leon's mental illness, Paul Leon's sexual violence, Paul Leon's conspiracy, engagement in a criminal conspiracy to commit murder of an American citizen. He is targeting and contact with the gang stalking municipality using a dumpster truck, touching me with impossible light activity, accosting my person and my face while I'm putting very damning evidence on the internet, okay? This is what the entity is sharing. And Leonida Builders, the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Police Department, the gang stalking immigrants, ARCO, Chevron, Starbucks, the same entity that's hosting the placement of the fake sun that remains here hours from now after 10 a.m. It's 7:25 a.m. right now. This is where the entity is stalking with light. Touching me when you're driving a dumpster truck in the street is a sex offense committed by a psychopath that's conspiring murder, the demon possessed that are gang stalking. And that is, again, under the corrupt leadership of Paul Leon, who was mentally ill, who was sharing in the criminal conspiracy to commit murder as a gang stalking mayor. And his pattern of conduct is shared by demons, corrupt terrorists that are enemies of this country, including Karen Bass, including Aquanetta Warren, and every other gang stalking mayor that has been revealed by virtue of the P.O.C., where I'm subject to this by the entire city as I'm in that. And that includes the state of Nevada, which is proven in 2024, where this fake sun remains over my vehicle out unto the state of Nevada. And the entities engaging in this absurdity with regard to what is prosecuting and removing terrorists from office like Paul Leon. This is P.O.C. That's a sex offense. And it's going directly to the demon that calls themselves mayors. He's not a mayor, and no gang stalker is a mayor. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that is gang stalking at 7:26 a.m. with the demons that are using aerial surveillance to engage in what is the pattern of conduct, engaging what is surveillance by the people of the state to engage in the pattern of conduct, engaging in that while absurdly psychopathic, using what is amplified noise. And the entities engaging what is stalking and touching with impossible light while the demons are stalking with the dumpster truck that you see. Those are the demons that are gang stalking me, for example, at Woodside Senior Apartments, where they're engaging in the same pattern of conduct, a sex offense, also when you're monitoring inside of a private space, such as an apartment, such as a bathroom, which Paul Leon is routinely engaging in. Okay? Big picture. This is Lemon Avenue right here. The fake sun is over me at 12:51 p.m., where I am merely on the opposite side of this parking lot in front of the Ontario City Hall, where Paul Leon's sexual violence, obsession with my genitalia, criminal engagement, and conspiring my murder by keeping me under surveillance with the people of the state, in concert and on behalf of terrorists who are going to prison like Jason Isaac Fields, Tracy Banks, and Eric Corey Spencer. It is currently 7:27 a.m. This is P.O.C. Oh, find me. Any other location, you already know that they're stalking, and so is Mike Lorenz's federal prosecution certain as well. Stalking while I'm walking away from ARCO, where the fake sun is moving away from ARCO, and this is where the entity is stalking, where it's remaining in alignment with the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library, which is right here, which is what I'm documenting at 5:45 in the evening when this aimed in alignment to me, and the OVITT Family Community Library is threatening my life and monitoring my genitalia, stalking me in the bathroom in concert with Mike Lorenz, who's going to be prosecuted as a terrorist for conspiring murder while that agency is targeting. And that's what the Ontario Police were doing at 506 North Euclid Avenue this morning. It is a banner for mental illness. That's exactly what I'm exposing simultaneously, and flying over the top of my head in the middle of this parking lot while the fake sun moves as I move is the direct evidence putting the mentally ill, such as Mike Lorenz, exposed terrorists acting in concert with the people who are demons pacing all around in engineer light, speaking to their mental illness while they do so under a fake sun, stalking in a helicopter, exposing mental illness that you suffer from. That demon's going to prison, and Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted. So is Jason Isaac Fields. The federal government has been targeting me in concert with the city of Ontario, that is the state of California, as I have been unilaterally exposing it. And then the federal government, that is demons like Jason Isaac Fields, they presuppose that they would be looked at and mistaken for a hero. They don't even appear as a hero. Jason Isaac Fields is not mistaken for any hero. He is Tracy Banks' sex partner, co-member of a sex cult that's been targeting me, and he's also gang stalking me with the Ontario Police, whom he relied on by their mental illness, and them stalking me as being psychopaths was going to falsely depict my character as being mentally ill. And then that was going to, again, in a psychopath's mind, make him appear legitimate regarding criminal acts that he engaged in with the corrupt court. That is also gang stalking, as my documentation evidence shows, where I'm absent from court hearings where he's defaming my character in reliance upon the criminal defamation of the gang stalkers in the Ontario Police Department and the people of the state like Eric Spencer and Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields himself. This is the federal government's engagement and what the city of Ontario is exposing about it and what it is exposing about the state of California. You don't have any coincidence. Not only is this the fake sun, but they are in the middle of the parking lot flying over the top of my head again. Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams, because Derek Williams retired, he's going to be federally prosecuted as a terrorist, conspiring my murder, which this agency has been engaged in as a matter of documentation since 2018. Okay, the entity committed the first kidnapping by Jonathan Burnett, badge number 19993, May 4th, 2019. This agency has been engaged in the conspiracy with Jason Fields, with the federal government, with the state, Tracy Banks having a fake conservatorship. This is how all those facts work together, and Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted. And his mental illness, I want to be clear, both mentally examined and federally prosecuted for criminal conduct, which is simultaneously exposing severe mental illness. This is P.O.C. at what is 9:06 a.m. The entity has the fake sun over the Ontario Police Department at 9:16 a.m. P.O.C. License plate 8WWL456. License plate 8XSP039. License plate 7DWK143 9RJJ490. They're driving in. This is mental illness. You see how it shimmers across the front of their car? They're driving engine light. They're monitoring, and so is the city of Ontario. Understand that's Paul Leon's removal from office. Paul Leon's mental illness on display. Incompetent and also professionally incompetent as a gang stalking mayor. And the entity is engaged in gang stalking while demons are stalking in concert with the demons that are using helicopters. stalking as an agency, while they are stalking as a city, and the entity is maintaining engineer light. This is Sarah Regis, who's going to be prosecuted as the people of the state at 320 North Euclid Avenue. Upon my exit at nightfall, the demon-possessed are monitoring. Upon my arrival this morning, the fake sun is remaining, and the entity then keeps a fake sun over the OVITT Family Community Library until sunset. 8 TUG 591. The entity is engaged in what is the pattern of conduct. This is impossible light activity. These are demons. All right, they're driving in the shade while impossible light occurs. 03941V2. This is a public service announcement regarding mental illness. These are the co-conspirators of murder. Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted. 7YWK600, and so is the federal government. Jason Isaac Fields. 555-74Y3, 9HYT349. That driving under the fake sun doesn't create that. Driving in the shade doesn't create that light activity. These are demons. This is the actual Nephilim. 9MCE797. If you do not know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, this is not only a public service announcement regarding the harm that the demon-possessed intend while they are monitoring you, and it's a government system in furtherance of murder. This is also letting you know that it is time that you stop wasting. Tomorrow is not promised. You need to accept Christ Jesus today as your Lord and Savior. Repent for your sins and be baptized, because he is coming back, and he's coming back in judgment. License plate 9PGY038. These are co-conspirators of prosecution. Mike Lorenz is going to be prosecuted as a terrorist with regard to pure numerosity of co-conspirators of murder while that agency targets me with the fake sun. The entity has this fake sun over me, if you'll recall, where the airport is flying over Sarah's Regis Group, and I'm going to prosecute the airport and Sarah's Regis Group, 8JNK159. And the entity that's flying over this apartment building is prosecuted while the people of the state are stalking with impossible light. The entity is going to be prosecuted while the entity is stalking by the Ontario Police Department while I'm at the venue, and the entity has the fake sun over me in the morning. I want to be clear, you've seen this fake sun over this. I'll attach the video because you've seen it over the same building at 6 p.m. at the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. This is the P.O.C, and the entity just flew over all the co-conspirators of murder that live inside of the apartment building and the property management company itself, Sarah's Regis Group, which is a person under the law, a person that's engaged in terrorism with the people. 8NSV534. While impossible light moves across your building, I'm going to prosecute you and everybody in that building. It is, by the way, 9:13 a.m. The fake sun's over the Ontario Police Department at 9:16 a.m. Like I stated, P.O.C. All right, the shared terrorism by everyone and every company, and it includes what is the ongoing pattern of conduct as of 9:18 a.m. while the gang stalkers that are keeping us under surveillance on communication devices. This is Securitas, which is a exposed domestic terrorist. And this African-American woman that wears a mop on her head, she's sitting on the golf cart. I captured her gang stalking, sitting in the parking garage of the 320 North Euclid Avenue, that I will be prosecuting as conspiring my murder, as a corrupt company facilitating surveillance in furtherance of murder by the state of California that is underway as I'm exposing it in the city of Ontario. She is engaged in what is crossing path while a demon that is possessing her whole body, that's relevant to her demonic behavior. And when you're prosecuting with regard to mental illness that is psychopathic in furtherance of murder while targeting someone, she is engaged in targeting me with impossible light activity that reaches out, is coming toward me, which is a threat to your well-being and your life, while that person is engaged in gang stalking with the gang stalkers that are stalking in planes and helicopters. All manner of that threat is posed while the entity is stalking with impossible light. And it is Securitas at 9:18 a.m. that's crossing path of the C Street turn circle, where I also took a picture of the proof of that. By the way, with the ordinary target individual, when you capture the fake sun, you have the proof of them stalking and terrorizing you with impossible light. But I have both. I have the entity stalked with impossible light, them showing that they're demons, and I also have the entity stalked with the fake sun, the entity showing you that they're demons and that they are all together unified in stalking me and conspiring my murder together. That's the prosecution of Mike Lorenz, a terrorist leader, not a police chief, of Derek Williams, engaged in what is conspiring my murder while he was in position as a terrorist leader, masquerading as a police chief. He will be prosecuted as well. Doing so with regard to the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, the federal government that is engaged in targeting me. This is Jason Isaac Fields. This is an absolute psychopath who's engaged in targeting me as well, and he is going to federal prison as surely as I'm documenting that. And I want to document Securitas is in a golf cart crossing path at 9:18 a.m. while I access, because you want to look at it, I'm going to attach it to the video on YouTube. You'll see it. But this is the evidence that the demons are very much hostile to, and demons are hostile when they're keeping your evidence about them under surveillance, and then you're subject to stalking by helicopter. At the same time, you're subject to stalking by planes. At the same time, you're subject to stalking by impossible light, terrorizing circumstance that a population shares while they're engaging in domestic terrorism.
seeking to psychologically torture you into a place of circumstance of mental illness so that terrorists like Jason Fields and Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Tracy Banks, etc., can then claim that they were correct in stealing your money and property beforehand when you weren't in court, when you had no idea about the property that they stole via defamation before they engaged in what is producing manufactured information to support those lies that they told when a gang stalking judge permitted that to occur. Still remaining in violation of the law, but the entity using gang stalking as a means of supporting what is remaining a criminal act and outside of any bounds of the rules of the court or how any sort of will and testament is going to be adjudicated in a court of law. But this is the corrupt government that is engaging in that P.O.C. and it's absolutely ignorant outside of the way that you are legitimately practicing law. But this is what the corrupt government relied on. Imbeciles, ignoramuses like Jason Isaac Fields, okay? A Jezebel that's engaged in what is having sex with him, and he's joining the sex cult with her, and all of the rest of the corrupt demons like Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams and all the gang stalking puppets that are gang stalking, calling themselves a police department and a sheriff department and a Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the state of California. They share in this sex cult while they're targeting me, and they are all being exposed as the demons that they are, engaging in what is criminal surveillance and not the legitimate operation of a local government body or a state government. They're engaged in surveillance, and they tried to get away with murdering me. Their mental illness is put on full display. That is, you know that Lisa Rogan is mentally ill, including while you see a demon stalking me in a helicopter in Ontario, California. You know that Shannon Dykes is a demon and that he is severely mentally ill, while the fake sun is not only over me at West Valley Detention Center at 12:51 p.m. and simultaneously over my head at Paul Leon's Ontario City Hall, while the entity is keeping it over me through the window above the staircase inside of the OVITT Family Community Library and over my head at Tracy Banks' apartment complex, Unit 51, where she lives at. This is the entity that is exposing its mental illness while they are sharing a criminal pattern of conduct. That is, they share that mental illness, that uncanny ability to stalk with light. Stalk under a fake sun, because that's what you're doing under a fake sun. You're maintaining an environment where a bunch of demons are keeping somebody under surveillance, including their genitalia. That's how you know that Shannon Dykes and Lisa Rogan are sex offenders. That's also how you know that they're engaged in targeting with regard to anything having to do with Erica Lorraine Spencer, because I've never been a criminal, and the entity engaged in what is simultaneously kidnapping and defaming my character, necessarily so, while they have engaged in what is stealing from me, in concert with Jason Fields, who never becomes legitimate. He never becomes legitimate. This is somebody that thought, but again, this is somebody that's demon possessed, so he's not actually thinking. Satan is running his sick mind, and he's going to be subject to routine mental examinations, and he's going to prison. He's not getting out because of the threat that he poses to American citizens. Remember, this is a corrupt government actor, not just a gang stalking bum out here on the streets and on the roads and the highways, like I'm documenting on a daily basis, wearing City of Ontario uniforms even, and they're gang stalkers, all the same. The entity's engaging in this, and I'm being terrorized by Securitas, doing so while crossing paths with impossible light activity while I document access on YouTube, where you can look at it yourself. What is the video evidence that the demons are very hostile to while I pull it up in order to prosecute demons and corrupt companies that are conspiring my murder, while your venue, identified as a venue, not a private property, is engaged in what is facilitating, aiding, and providing a crime scene for the government to engage in surveilling an American citizen, which is committed in furtherance of murder. It's not merely the violation of privacy. This is the video that is, by the way, I want you to go ahead and take a good look at it, because this is what is triggering the demons. And so I'm going to go ahead and include it on this podcast, but it's also relevant. I'm going to prosecute Securitas. Securitas has been engaged in kidnapping over the years with the OVITT Family Community Library, including the Ontario Town Square, engaging in criminal summoning while they've been engaged in criminal monitoring the whole time. That's federal prison, okay? When you're looking at security companies like Allied Universal, the entities engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they do so maliciously as commercial actors, and they are operating, doubling, in other words, as legitimate companies, and the state of California is engaged in a pattern of conduct. So this is, let me go ahead and cite this video where I'm subject to terrorism because the demon possessed are not only gang stalking, they're monitoring online, and they are monitoring what is evidence against them. And that video evidence that you're going to want to take a look at, it's captured on June 6, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the same location where I'm at. I just took a picture of the fake sun, and I've captured it well before this. The fake sun over me while I'm at this same venue looking at the parking lot of the same library at 7:39 a.m. And I'm capturing it while I'm inside of the parking garage of this same apartment complex, Sarah's Regis Group, downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, where they are gang stalking amongst that supernatural environment where demons are stalking. And in that same OVITT Family Community Library where I'm looking at the fake sun at 7:39 a.m., you see it in alignment to me, where I'm sitting at computer station number 1 at 5:45, 5:50 in the evening. That's where an entity is stalking. That's where a police chief is exposed as a domestic terrorist. That's where an the president of the so-called airport authority is exposed as a domestic terrorist. That's where an airport board and an Ontario executive team of that airport and every airline are exposed as domestic terrorists, conspiring an elaborate conspiracy to murder one person that they are together targeting in that unmistakable environment. And it is to the degree of science that they will be prosecuted. Okay, but again, that video that you can take a look at, and I will also attach it for your convenience to the YouTube video as I am publishing the entity stalking with impossible light activity. This is a population of demons. They are referring to, in scripture, they are the Nephilim, meaning they are the demon possessed. It is the work of Satan. These are demonic people, not just people that are in sin. I mean, the spirit of Satan, which is invisible, possesses them. And when you are prosecuting a public entity that's gang stalking and exhibiting the demonic pattern of conduct, it is public corruption. This is the public entity that is acting vicariously on behalf of the government in the same way that they are on behalf of Satan targeting. Okay, this is P.O.C. and it is June 6, 2025 at 6 p.m. on the dot. Sarah's Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, and the OVITT Family Community Library stalking like they are today, right now in the morning, and it's 9 o'clock. It's the same time. June is, we're still in daylight savings time. And as the pattern of conduct also proves, daylight savings time will never be an explanation for what is the fake sun for the duration of time of 10 to 12 hours, which is what I've been documenting at every venue, including when I'm in another state. And you're mindful of what is remaining over the OVITT Family Community Library. It's the bullseye for prosecuting the government. That's what it is. P.O.C. All right, that ongoing act of terrorism, which is sexual violence, is shared by Sarah's Regis Group in concert with the people of the state, molesting me with impossible light as hostile demons who are mad because their conspiracy to murder me is not remaining a secret. License 71724B4. That's sexual assault and battery as an entity in concert with the City of Ontario that's pacing around the square. License 7LWS487. License 8TCK077. Wells Fargo, located at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Every gang stalking employee, which you saw them gang stalking me with the city, you see them doing that every day. But they are getting, as they arrive to work, the entity is stalking with the airport in sync under the fake sun. And they're monitoring and sharing in a sex offense, both that company and those demons that are gang stalking. Sitting in their vehicle, engaging what is monitoring while engaging in the perpetual sex offense. License 8TCK077, a demon that's stalking in the path, and what you'll see over my head is indeed the fake sun, where it's still in that position where I'm documenting demons at the same square at 6 o'clock in the evening. 7S VS 986, and this is again a public service announcement regarding pervasive mental illness that poses a threat to American citizens who are ignorant about what surrounds you, and they are demons and they conspire murder. These are serial killers that are engaging in this act with the government. So you're not getting prosecuted for murder that's committed as an entity. The entity engages in what is gang stalking American citizens that they also seek to falsely depict. So your death will be because you were a drug addict. Your death will be because you were a street walking prostitute. Your death will be because you've always been mentally unstable and you always disappear and you turn up dead. And so no surprise there. While the entity has been engaged in targeting you, that's the threat behind the City of Ontario gang stalking amongst the municipality. Every level of the City of Ontario is engaged in gang stalking as they share in the mental illness and that demonic pattern of conduct, from the demons driving the City of Ontario vehicles, license 1469414, to the demons driving the dumpster trucks. 9ECP526. This is the entity that's sharing, and that the entity is doing so while they are all keeping me under surveillance. That's also what they admit. They concede to that while I'm subject to that supernatural means of targeting. Very unintelligent, okay? Routinely engaged in what is surveillance inside of the library. Let me go ahead and document that for you. That is, again, license plate. 6BNU400, 8BNF750, 4UBK031, 8ZSS401. Sharing in what is a sex offense. Securitas is not the only demon over here, but they're engaging in what is a uniform pattern of conduct. While they're engaging in that and keeping the evidence against them under surveillance. License 85EIMT, that's a Florida plate. Crossing state lines with the intention to engage in surveillance that's committed in furtherance of murder is federal prison. All right, and that's how the federal statute is going to read when it is exposed what the entity is doing, and she's doing that on behalf of the Ontario police that are stalking in things like helicopters. While they're engaging in surveillance like you see them doing outside of the Chevron, where I'm routinely going, where Balbier is being exposed as a gang stalking immigrant, and you thought that that was a good idea beforehand only because you're a psychopath, because engaging in what is posing even more poignant threat with regard to stalking me with unstable psychopaths that are keeping my vagina under surveillance and then want to wear uniforms as though they're legitimate. Those are the demons that engage in murder and call it a day's work with a police department. You're going to be deported, and that's subject to federal prison. That's what Balbier is engaging in with the Ontario police this morning, whom she's gang stalking with, while the entity is engaging in that presence by helicopter and using what are city resources, a police department vehicle. That's speaking to Paul Leon's criminal engagement, his criminal expenditures, his ongoing facilitation, his more than dereliction of duty. He's a gang stalker. It's not just dereliction as with regard to an absurd level of negligence and ignorance about, no, you're not ignorant. You're not ignorant while the fake sun's over the Ontario City Hall. You're not ignorant while the entity is keeping a fake sun rising and setting over the OVITT Family Community Library, which is in the same civic center as that mayor and that city hall. This is a gang stalking mayor. This is an entity that's exposing itself as the enemies of the United States that they are, sharing in what is sexual violence. And then they go about their day and they want you to think that they're law-abiding citizens. License plate 9PW2234, I believe. License plate 9D002V3. Stalking me at a distance with impossible light. Those are demons. Those are the demon possessed. Okay, in the same way that they're gratified by engaging in that demented behavior, that sick behavior, they engage in, they derive pleasure from and are gratified by psychologically torturing people, monitoring their genitalia, stalking them in bathrooms, and they are also gratified by killing them, murdering them, and witnessing their demise. Watching it on the news as though it's reported in the way in which you see the demon-possessed population that accomplished that murder, they are gratified by that. And you have no idea about this unspoken system. This Jason Isaac Fields is going to prison. These are unintelligent demons, and he thought that his position, he thought that the government itself was going to overwhelm me and overshadow me, and that the entity was going to also steal my intellectual property. Okay? This is the pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. The entity is gang stalking with a bunch of imbeciles at the Ontario Town Square. I'm going to take pictures of them engaging what is the use of communication devices, looking like imbeciles, demons, dressed up in costumes, while the entity is stalking with the Southwest Airlines. There's no takeoffs from the airport over here. It's the same pattern of conduct. This is mental illness. The same demons that are stalking with impossible light are standing in front of cameras right now wearing costumes, gang stalking. These are demons. That's the pattern of conduct, and that is the removal of Paul Leon, who was mentally ill. Very mentally ill. He is sick, and he's exposed as an enemy of this country, seeking to secretly conspire against American citizens. That's what I'm exposing about him while I'm being gang stalked in the city of Ontario. That's what I'm exposing about Aquanetta Warren when I'm being gang stalked in the city of Fontana. That's what I'm exposing about Karen Bates when I'm being gang stalked in the city of Los Angeles, and so on and so forth. It is just that. There is no way that you will have a son over what is Temple, and when I'm in Pomona, California, over the Starbucks, and the entity is engaged in what is stalking as a matter of what you understand is the definition, the proof of it. That supernatural environment at the Starbucks, while the Pomona Police Department and Los Angeles Fire Department are gang stalking under that fake sun, and they share severe mental illness, okay? This is P.O.C. This is an entity that's engaged in what is a demonic means of what is the pattern of conduct. The entity engaged in what is putting on costumes, and that's the city of Ontario that's going to be uprooted, ripped apart, meaning there's no fire department, and so you're not going to masquerade as a fire department anymore. It's not a police department, so you're not going to masquerade as a police department. You are enemies of this country, and you're going to be treated accordingly. In fact, the entity is going to be overwhelmed by the federal government that must step in because of the lawlessness, because of the threat to society and American citizens that the entire city of Ontario poses. That is the state of California. Okay, and Gavin Newsom is fully engaged in that and aware of it. Just so that you know, it's not a coincidence that I'm being gang stalked at DMV, that I'm being gang stalked amongst the San Bernardino County and Los Angeles County, that I'm being gang stalked at any city hall that I go to. These same mayors that he wants you to see him standing next to them when they're dealing with the fires in Los Angeles. Karen Bates is a gang stalker, and so is Gavin Newsom. They're demons. The entire state is corrupt. You are not ignorantly engaging. It's impossible to engage in what is this type of crime ignorantly. This is that which has existed for decades. I am the first person that's spoken to it because I'm the first person that has survived it. I'm the first person that cannot be bullied. You're not going to bully me. I'm going to prosecute you. I'm going to pull you out of that helicopter and you're going to be stripped of that uniform. You're going to be subject to mental examinations and you're going to prison. And anybody helping you engage in that crime, which is committed as an entity, is going to be prosecuted as well. You're not intimidating me. You are fearful of me because you know who I am. That's why you're targeting in a helicopter, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic. In the same way you're crouching in bathroom stalls, obsessed with my vagina, and then you're flinging light. That's how you respond to evidence putting you in prison, flinging light around. You are in need of the mental examinations that you are going to get, okay? Jason Isaac Fields is not a federal official. This is a vagina monitoring psychopath who's been engaged in having sex with his mother. That's what Tracy Banks represents. He's emotionally demented, and he's engaged in targeting innocent American citizens. That's what I represent. I'm not the first person he's targeting. I'm the first person to prosecute him. He's going to prison. It is currently 9:48 a.m. where the entity is gang stalking amongst the city of Ontario in concert with Securitas, in concert with the entity that has a fake sun while they're cheesing and wearing costumes celebrating the demonic holiday of Halloween. They're engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, and under this fake sun that's still aimed in alignment to where I'm sitting inside of the OVITT Family Community Library right here after 5 p.m. And that's how you're looking at and witnessing mental illness by those that call themselves employees of the municipality, and it is fitting because they're demons. This is P.O.C.
These are the demons that are engaged in surveillance at 5 in the evening when this fake sun is so low and so powerful that, first of all, it's still here and it's aimed squarely inside of the venue where they're all stalking inside of the venue. On behalf of the entity that's stalking as a municipality with planes and helicopters, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're going to look at the video that I captured of what is gang stalking inside of the OVITT Family Community Library that committed kidnapping as an entity. And the entity is going to prison. You saw Mickey gang stalking walking out under the fake sun that's right here. Mickey's going to be prosecuted for stalking and furtherance of murder with the city of Ontario. That does her a disservice as you're looking at the implosion of gang stalking. Frontier is gang stalking with light activity. Stalking in the path. This is mental illness. The city of Ontario wearing costumes, stalking with the city of Ontario. Look at the images. You'll see the fake sun over me by the wall. Now you're looking at moments later, the fake sun is over me at the entrance. The same entrance where John and Mickey are gang stalking, walking out of this entrance after 5 p.m. where you're looking at the same fake sun. That is not going to be present at the same address. It's not going to be over the same Wells Fargo that you see now in the morning. The entity that had the fake sun this morning rising would not move east to be over the Ontario City Hall where Paul Leon is exposed as an enemy of this country, targeting American citizens of furtherance of murder, engaging in the un-American criminal conduct with a corrupt police department, a corrupt population, and engaging in what is corruption with the people of the state. This is the absurdly impossible and scientifically impossible environment where you are proving beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, and to a scientific degree that the population is stalking. This is the African-American male engaged in systematic monitoring of my vagina. License plate 6BNU400. He's engaged in what is gang stalking with the city of Ontario, and he comes in here to engage in surveillance, and he represents the whole population. This is mental illness, okay? P.O.C. The entity, it's not different when they're driving a shiny Land Rover or a model, whatever you think is the appearance of having made it. None of them have. These are demons. And they're gang stalkers. They're under a fake sun, and this is going to be submitted in court regarding the gang stalkers on June 16, 2022, the gang stalkers on September 25th, 2020, the gang stalkers on January 13th, 2020, the gang stalkers on September 28th, 2025, the gang stalkers on July 4th, 2025, the gang stalkers on July 5th, 2025, the gang stalkers that are engaged in what is attempted kidnapping on July 5th, 15th, 2025. The entity that's engaged in kidnapping on May 29th, 2025. The entity that's engaged in kidnapping on June 18th, 2021. In July of 2000 and in July of 2022. They're all going to prison. All right. And the entity that I'm documenting gang stalking, like you saw this morning at the Chevron, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. They're stalking in furtherance of murder. It's not just surveillance. It's not just stalking. It's surveillance and furtherance of murder. And a gang stalking may or shall not remain in office. Sharing that mental illness, stalking in the possible light, that Looney Tune is getting out of office. And so is every other gang stalking mayor. This is P.O.C. They share mental illness, 7NVT003. They share sexual violence. They share criminal stalking and furtherance of murder. P.O.C. That's impossible audible activity while a demon is stalking. This is the private space. It's 11:41 a.m. And this is Lindsay and Yesenia, the entity that is, again, employed at the venue sharing in that sexual violence. This is the entity that committed kidnapping, the entity that's stalking by helicopter and commercial plane in a private space, stalking with things as absurd and mentally deranged as Impossible Light, then engaging in the P.O.C. in the private space. All of that is relevant to this P.O.C. right now. It's 11:42 a.m. This is, again, mental illness. Paul Leon is being removed from office for this very, it's both mentally ill and it's absurdly demonic and perverted. He's being removed from office for it. He is engaged in monitoring in a private space. That is totally unfit for any gang stalker that wants to be a mayor. It's unfit. It's something that is demonstrating how you are unequivocally unfit for office, in other words. Gang stalking immigrants are going to be deported for this very sexual violence. An entity is acting as one. This is the basis for deportation. Amplified noise as they are listening to the deportation policy. That's an engineer light. It is P.O.C. And it's under the fake sun that's over this roof. So that is P.O.C. There is nothing that's naturally occurring. An engineer light is all serving that purpose. So the entity is placing itself in places where they will be deported and put in prison and prosecuted. Period. Okay? You can't hear the elevator in here. Using the sink is not going to go through the mirror and the tile and the walls. The entity is engaging in what is amplified noise, just like I'm documenting at the Upland Public Library, where the entity makes the noise as though you can hear the elevator that's on the opposite side of the bathroom, inside of the bathroom, while the entity maintains engineer light, which is the same pattern of conduct. Absurdly predatory and demented at the same time, which are the demons that are stalking with impossible light. They do so in bathrooms. You are going to be deported for gang stalking in bathrooms. And as you can see, it is very pathetic what the demon-possessed practice. So you could just put Mike Lorenz, just like he is being prosecuted for stalking in a helicopter, you could put him right here in this bathroom stall. Because that's exactly what he is engaging in as an entity. It's pathetic and you're being prosecuted for it. This is mental illness that an entity that is exhibiting, they're going to be committed, they're going to be convicted. So the entity is always engaging in what is revealing its own issues while engaging in things such as stalking in a bathroom. And remember, the entity is engaging in what is surrounding me at all times. So you went in the bathroom anticipating my presence and you are a whole psychopath sex offender doing so. And the employees are going to be prosecuted for that as well. They're sharing in that, just to be clear. The entity is not engaging in anything coincidentally. It's pursuant to what is heavy-duty, diligent, obsessive stalking. This is literally a demon that's just engaging in surveillance in the bathroom stall. And this is while they're fearful of my videos being published. This is while they're hostile because they embarrass themselves by stalking me with impossible light. And so sitting in the bathroom stall while the entity maintains amplified noise and they're doing so in engineer light, that's going to stop the evidence being published online. That's, again, the spirit of Satan that creates what is the manifested behavioral health concern issue. That is the mentally ill that are gang stalkers. That's what's engaging with just sitting in the bathroom stall. It's stalking, but this is literally just sitting in the bathroom stall where they're always monitoring me. It's pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic. Sean Thrasher, he's the one that's going to prison. It is, yeah, it's 11:48 a.m. And I'll go ahead and get the fake sun as I go back upstairs as well to show you that this is a demon. I've already exhibited. When the fake sun is in alignment to me at 5:51 p.m. as I'm sitting at the same computer inside of the same building at 10 o'clock, this is gang stalking in a bathroom. And with that same pathetic purpose, okay, when the prosecution is already complete. And not only that, I will go ahead and capture that so that you can see how both petty and also maniacal the demon-possessed are, okay? And when they're stalking with light, like you see on video, like I've been capturing for years, that's speaking to the necessity of mental examinations upon prosecution of a population, gang stalking an American citizen in bathrooms. That's amplified noise and engineered light. It's P.O.C. The Ontario International Airport is gang stalking. That would be Julia Gu, Jim Bowman, Kurt Hagman, Alan D. Wapner, that are engaged in what is, and Ronald Leverage. These are all aged sex offenders engaged in what is monitoring through the pathetic means of maintaining surveillance at his presence in the path, occupying a stall where they're anticipating my presence, making sure every corner is surrounded, and they are gang stalking with every airline that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's what's crouching inside of a bathroom stall. Understand that? And it is shared with what is Mike LORENZ and every demon that is associated with the agency that's engaged in terrorism, not law enforcement, the Ontario Police Department, that has provided a wealth of evidence putting everybody in the building engaged in nothing other than criminal surveillance, which includes the bathrooms. That is a sex offender and a psychopathic one. There is nothing other than the P.O.C. And science is going to prosecute the sex offenders that engage in surveillance in bathrooms. They will be inevitably subject to mental examinations. The amplified noise is speaking to what is their mental illness. The impossible light activity is speaking to their mental illness. The maintenance of a fake sun is speaking to their mental illness. The crouching in bathroom stalls while you're engaging in the elements of monitoring and thought beforehand that no one was ever going to know that while you still engage in it in plain view is speaking to mental illness. That's the delusional aspect. And you're going to be prosecuted, both convicted and committed. The entity is at all times revealing its mental issues while gang stalking. On behalf of a government, okay, this is necessarily removal of Paul Leon. You're no sex offender, no demon, no gang stalker, no un-American criminal is going to engage in what is remaining in office and then using a label like mayor to engage in that. Not at all. It's absurd. It's as absurd as the fake sun being over that Ontario City Hall. He's an embarrassment. He's an embarrassment. The entity is engaged in what is surveillance in bathrooms, and that's, again, exhibiting mental illness that you are aware of. Not only have I exposed the fact that Paul Leon is an enemy of this country, and he's engaged in facilitating massive criminal conduct by a whole city, he's engaged in the mentally depraved behavior such as surveillance in a bathroom, which is, again, criminal expenditure and wasting of funds on things like this. This is what the Ontario Police is engaged in, what is using the resources of the police department. The Ontario International Airport engaged in using the resources of that venue for surveillance in a bathroom. It's all relevant to where I'm at and what I'm doing, which is using my device and documenting it. The entities engaging in that while they are crouching in a bathroom stall, and a desperate demon, that's a psychopath representing everyone that's in the building, including the state of California, that's engaging in that. And that's the embarrassment of the Nephilim. Nothing to fear, actually. You just need to know what it is that you're dealing with, and it's a maniacal, sophomoric, pathetic, and wildly desperate psychopath that's demon-possessed, going by names such as police officer, police chief, EMT, registered nurse, MD, librarian, store clerk, barista, whatever. It's a entity that is engaging in what is public corruption. All right, and of course, it's not going to stop publishing the evidence. In fact, this is going to be added to the evidence, and the entity is going to be put in prison and subject to mental examinations for the kidnapping that they engaged in while they made malicious assertions about sexual violence that actually this entity is engaged in. That's not a coincidence or an accident. It's 11:53 a.m. This is P.O.C. regarding bathroom monitoring. The entity that's engaged in what is crouching in the bathroom stall is sharing criminal presence in the path and is doing so pursuant to what is the entity that's maintaining amplified noise on this demon's behalf. This is a creature that is possessed by Satan, and that's also the entity that's vicariously present in a bathroom, engaging in criminal conduct on behalf of that entity under the fake sun. And they engage in these desperate tactics with regard to, I'm going to hold up. This is the, I'm going to hold, in other words, I've yet to publish the videos. It's all over the internet already, but I've yet to publish the videos on YouTube. So holding up the bathroom stall is supposed to distract me, and then I'll get off the computer, and then I won't be able to put, and it's all going on the internet. This is, again, the entity that thinks that stalking in a helicopter is not going to be addressed in the federal court and clearly seen as targeting. And who's that going to affect? People like Michael Lorenz, people like Tracy Banks, people like Nathan Morgan, and everybody that was at that apartment on May 29, 2025, people like Jason Isaac Fields, who's been engaged in targeting with his sex partner, Tracy Banks, and Eric Spencer with that same, it's affecting everyone, in other words. Everything that's tainted by that same entity. But this is what they engage in. That's the absence of any actual strategy. Gang stalking has been imploded. Okay? This is POC. I'm going to go ahead and capture the fake sun that's over the venue while they're engaged in what is gang stalking in a bathroom. That is still, again, conduct conducive to vagina monitoring. That's what they're doing. The amplified audible noise is present when no one's physically in the bathroom. The entity is engaging what is stalking with impossible light. That's supernatural, and so is the amplification, while a bunch of demons are engaging in surveillance in a bathroom. That is a sex offense, period. It is a sex offense when your genitalia is exposed and they're engaged in what is monitoring your physical movements while you're in that indisposed state. Not only that, your body is being touched with what is light that's not even naturally occurring. It's not changing when you're engaging in the same bathroom monitoring, a sex offense committed as an entity, by merely engaging in what is harassment and occupying the stall when you are stalking my every moment, which is, and every movement, which is punctuated by a fake sun. A fake sun that's still over the same entrance as it was this morning. It's still morning time. It's 11:56 a.m. The entity has the fake sun in Fontana, California. The entity has the fake sun while I am remaining at the Fontana Lewis Library in Fontana at the 8437 Sierra Avenue. And the entity is engaged in what is surveillance by keeping a fake sun over the entrance where you're crouching in the bathroom stall, maintaining surveillance together. It's the same bathroom monitoring. It's a desperate tactic of demons that are very much fearful of what is it. But again, the fear is it's very, very delayed. And it's also not fear that is relevant because they're still gang stalking. But I'm just letting you know these demons are fearful and they're desperate. So you're engaged in harassment, occupying the bathroom stall, and that's exactly what you're doing under a fake sun. It is that specific, and it is that petty, okay? The entity engages in that while they are being exposed as gang stalkers under what is a scientific fact The scientific fact is that that's not the sun. So the fact that it's not the natural environment is indeed the fact that's going to serve for what is a prosecution. And that is the absurdity regarding stalking with impossible light. And the entities engaged in this conduct while they're engaging in the P.O.C. I want to be clear. The entity is engaged in what is vagina monitoring while you're sitting in the library gang stalking, and then you walk out and then that demon vacates that stall. You will still be documented and prosecuted as, again, the same sex offender. So the entities engaged in what is blocking the ability to, by occupying a stall in order to save face. You're not saving anybody's face. The entity is acting ceaselessly, including when you're walking in and out as an entity inside of the venue. These are the demons that don't understand how they're going to be prosecuted as an entity together that is ceaselessly present, not based on your individual presence. You are an imbecile that doesn't understand the prosecution of a criminal conspiracy, and I will still prosecute you as a vagina monitoring sex offender, even when you walk out and then that demon vacates the stall. Those are the delusional psychopaths that are stalking under a fake sun and don't understand how this prosecution is going to go. Okay? That's P.O.C. though, and it's harassment by sex offenders that know that they're being documented. And it's relevant to everybody that's in the building right now, and they're monitoring my vagina every time I go in the bathroom. It's P.O.C. It's currently 11:58 a.m. and you will see the fake sun over the same entrance, which is speaking to ongoing ceaseless vagina monitoring. Okay? You're not protected at all. And everyone knows that you think because you're delusional, you don't think at all. You're a demon. That's why you're under a fake sun throwing around engineered light, stalking in things like helicopters. You are absurdly psychopathic and delusional. And you will be prosecuted as the same exact vagina monitoring psychopath that you were at the outset, whether you're in the building or not. This is an entity that's maintaining surveillance together. That's exactly what's behind that, though. I just want to break that down for you. Jason Isaac Fields doesn't have to be inside of the library for me to prosecute him as a sex offender and the terrorist that he is. He solicited a whole government. Tracy Banks solicited the entity that she remains a part of. Obviously, I'm still being gang stalked outside of her presence. I'm not in her apartment. She's still gang stalking as an entity. Maintaining vicarious presence on behalf of the government. It's the government's pattern of conduct. The government's maintaining surveillance through all of the population, and you will be prosecuted in the exact same manner because that's the exact same pattern of conduct. They maintain a population to keep my genitalia under surveillance. So you are looking at all of the sex offenders on an ongoing basis as I capture them. That's why you're looking at the labels showing you exactly what they are based on exactly what they're doing and their delusional tactics. And this is why you don't engage in targeting somebody that is very well learned in the law and how to prosecute you. Okay, because you and your delusion, and your delusion is based on your obsession, and you are not thinking logically whatsoever. You certainly aren't engaging in any legal reasoning, and I will prosecute you, just like I said. Keeping what's between my legs under surveillance is occurring while you're sitting next to me gang stalking in the library, and also when I get your license plate outside and 2 hours later I use the restroom, you're a same part of that same entity. You're going to be prosecuted as a sex offender, period. Harassment in the bathroom, however, that is a noted tactic. And that's relevant to the delusion and the sophomoric tactics of demons that are keeping evidence under surveillance. That's obstruction of justice. It is P.O.C. It is based on demons that are not prepared for a prosecution in a courtroom. Okay, where no illusions and voodoo or black magic or sex rituals are going to be effective. This is P.O.C.
How are you?
What's going on?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So look, the only reason why we're here is because it sounds like there was a little incident in the restroom earlier.
What incident happened in the restroom?
Someone was saying that you were yelling.
Who's who?
I don't know who it was.
You don't know who it was?
I don't know who called us,
But they told you who was in the bathroom?
Yeah, they described you.
They described me. How did they describe me? Because I didn't speak
your
with
clothing
them.
description.
They described me. And they said we spoke?
They said that you were yelling in the restroom. Are
They
you
said
okay?
I was
The
yelling.
only reason why we're here is to make sure that
They
you're
said I was yelling.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Nobody else came in the bathroom stating that I was yelling. There was no yelling.
Okay. So like I said, the only reason why we're here is because of that, but we want to make sure that you're okay. Are you okay?
You want to make sure that I'm okay. Okay. I appreciate you guys coming to make sure that I'm okay. Can I get your name? Your D. Ramos. Do you have a badge number, Ramos?
21787.
21787?
Chris, 20720.
Chris?
Yeah,
Okay.
CRIST.
Okay,
we're
got
just
it.
here to basically make sure you're okay. So based on that, do you know where you're at right now?
What is this supposed to be?
We're supposed to make sure your mental status, make sure you're okay, because you were yelling profanities and stuff.
No. Now you're going from stating you were told that to speaking as though it's fact.
Okay.
Those are two different
so we
things.
have to go based off of what we know, right?
You
so
don't know
I'm coming
that.
here to ask you in a polite way what's going on, because if we talk...
He already asked me.
The library doesn't want you here.
Ramos already asked me that.
Yes, if you're okay. I'm asking you a different question.
Yeah.
Do you
So
know where you're at
based
right
on
now?
my stating that I'm okay, then that and stating that there was no yelling, why are you still asking me
I'm
questions?
asking you a basic question to determine your mental status.
There is no there in the same way that you want to determine my mental status, does that mean that you're going to be subject to a mental status check? Because nothing happened, right? So you're just coming in and asking me questions that have no basis. Nothing happened in the bathroom. There was no yelling. And I'm speaking in the same manner that I was. In fact, there was not even a conversation with anyone in the bathroom.
Good.
Okay, so Erica, you don't want to hurt yourself?
Do I want to hurt myself? Do you want to hurt yourself, Ramos?
I don't.
You don't?
Do you want to hurt anybody else?
Have I done that?
I'm asking you, do you want to?
Were you told that I hurt someone?
No, not at all.
But you were told, even though there was no conversation, that there
I'm
was
just asking you a
yelling.
question. You could ask me the same question.
Yeah, I did. You did, and you answered it. My issue is that what?
So can you answer my question? Do you feel like hurting anybody else?
I feel like this is a question that I don't have to answer. That's why I'm getting to why are you asked me, did that happen? And you're asking me that based on something that absolutely nothing happened. So I can walk into the bathroom, be on my phone, and then you just approach me and ask me questions. So this is supposed to be a health check, right?
Mental, yeah.
This is supposed to be a mental check. When you guys state that you need one, right? You need one, Chris. You need one, actually. But you're unilaterally determining that a health check is required because someone called you and said that something happened, right? And then I tell you, no, that didn't happen. And then you proceed to do a health check.
It's just simple questions.
But it's not simple questions. That's my point. Okay, but like I stated, nothing happened in the bathroom. I'm glad that you guys are checking. You're making sure that everything's okay. Is there anything else that I can help you with?
So, as of right now, everything has been pretty much, like I said, a safety check. We were here for a 911 call, okay?
A 911 call.
I just want to make sure that when we leave, there isn't any further disturbances or
You're
future.
stating, no, but that's relying on what your turn, someone mysteriously told you when nothing happened.
I was
So
also
that's
told
why.
that there was previous incidents involving you.
What previous
recording
incidents?
in the restroom.
Now you're talking about recording. Was there an argument or was there recording?
This is previous, not today. So previously.
When
I
was
wasn't
this?
here for it. I was just informed.
So
So like I said, I just want to make
the
sure that
drama.
there's no further
Okay, so the
disturbances.
drama unfolds. So now you're talking about a previous of recording what?
So if you're gonna see on the computer, that's totally.
Wait, Ramos, you're jumping. I don't understand. What was I recording?
Like I said, I was.
Like I'm recording right now?
Yeah. But
Okay.
Not in this manner.
What
Doing it in
manner?
the restroom.
Yelling and recording in the restroom, right?
Yelling today, recording previously in the restroom.
Reporting who in the restroom?
Recording.
When was this happening?
Like I said, I wasn't here for that incident.
So who was here? When did that happen? Well, I'm saying my point is, you're talking about things that have never occurred. So when you're just coming up and rattling off information, is that supposed to make it a fact because you wear these uniforms because it didn't happen?
Okay, so like I said, regardless if I'm stating facts or not, if you want to say that none of this happened, which you're saying none of it happened, right? You weren't yelling today.
Wow, if it would have happened, how come you didn't come when it happened? When I was Alrighty, this is Chris and Ramos, vehicle 1127, and Abigail, license for Ontario Police, license 1706921. The Ontario International Airport is gang stalking with Ramos and Chris, who are making up information. You can, the podcast is stating, I'm documenting the P.O.C, and the entity comes in and stating, oh, you were yelling in the bathroom. 1706920, yelling in the bathroom while the entity is engaged in what is the pattern of conduct and always seeking to create what is circumstances where you are engaging in what is something that is disturbing mentally ill behavior while they are exhibiting severe mental illness in that environment. And Abigail is stating,
Yeah, so we had to update all our policies and procedures just to make sure that we're taking care of everything.
okay, I just wanted to confirm, since we're all here, all parties, Ramos and Chris said that I was yelling in the bathroom. Were you downstairs?
It wasn't her who called.
Yeah, I know.
We're here because she's an employee
Yeah.
here.
Right.
So she's our point of contact when we get here because she obviously works here.
Right.
So other than that, you're not needed right here. We're going to talk
Well,
real quick.
well,
and
there
we're
is,
gonna be
well,
done.
Mr. Christ, I know you'd like it to be that cut and dry, but when you're making those statements about somebody is stating that I'm yelling in the bathroom, that's getting towards some sort of wacky behavior or something, and you're coming into my presence, right, in front of everyone, stating that I'm engaging in this behavior, right? You follow? You stated, you made those statements. I documented it.
Take care, okay?
Okay, Chris. So, well, you guys are making those statements, and then you're conversing with the library, and you don't want to state as to who called or nothing like that? Oh, okay. I didn't think so. All right. It's vehicle 1127, and the other vehicle that Chris is operating is 1126. They are speaking with the same gang stalkers, Abigail, and the Latino male, the heavy-set Latino male, while they're gang stalking together under the fake sun. It's 12:23 p.m. This is the entity that's engaging in surveillance. The gang stalker at computer station number 2, for example, 7KDP035. The gang stalker at computer station number 2 is also monitoring with them while they're engaging what is the P.O.C. together, and that's the entity that's communicating what is an unlawful threat while they're monitoring as one. Okay? It is currently 12:23 p.m. under the fake sun that's remaining, and Securitas is sharing in that P.O.C. Everything okay, security guard? Yeah? Okay. That's the pattern of conduct. That's the entity that's monitoring in the bathroom and engaging in what is stating, again, making up statements and treating them as fact. And then when you are getting what is the response regarding making up information as to why you're in their presence, and also it's made up when they're engaging in what is the pattern of conduct. Okay, so this is the entity that engages in that and does so while they are fearful of the evidence, because that's what that's about. And the entity is engaging in what is audible activity creation with the people of the state as well. All right, it's 12:24 p.m. and that Ontario International Airport, that same airport, is engaged in what is monitoring with Christ and Ramos, D. Ramos, that are engaged in monitoring together, including with the patrons that are sitting at the computer station where they're monitoring as one. All right, and doing so in every area inside of the venue that includes the restroom. All right, it is currently 12:24 p.m. That's the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C., and this is the entity that's engaged in what is posing a threat to an American citizen while you are engaged in what is exposing that pattern of conduct, which is a threat to your life, making up information and stating anyone can state that, and that's exactly what they did, especially while I'm documenting just like this, and there is no yelling, and you can talk about whatever you want, and it's also no threat to the, it's a threat with regard to them being exposed with regard to the P.O.C., but you have no right under the law when you're engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's the malice of the P.O.C. So you literally have what is the entity that is gang stalking coming in and stating, oh, we were told this. They're not told anything, nor do they need to be told anything. They're engaging in surveillance, including while being in your presence. This is the same venue that's under the fake sun at 5:55 in the evening, where it's aimed in alignment to my person, where Chris and D. Ramos are standing together in that environment, surrounded with that evidence, speaking as psychopaths who are delusional, exhibiting malice and doing so with the people of the state who are together lying. The substance of what is the conversation that didn't happen. In the same way, I'm not talking to anyone now, but the entity is making statements such as you're yelling in the bathroom, and yelling in the bathroom is supposed to be the evidence where you are engaged in something that's going to require the presence of law enforcement, who are not law enforcement. They're engaged in surveillance. The substance of what I'm talking about, they actually do have people that go in the bathroom monitoring me, yelling at the top of their lungs, and they don't call the police on them. Okay, because I'm documenting the pattern of conduct, you're engaged in what is criminal summoning in the environment where the fake sun is present, and doing so with demons who are gang stalking with you, who are very fearful. What do the demon possessed do when they're scared? They summon the gang stalkers themselves. That is LORENZ, who is going to be federally prosecuted for that P.O.C. Chris and D. Ramos are facilitating, engaging in directly while they're engaged in what is surveillance in the bathroom. Okay, Abigail and the employees that are engaging in conversing together, they're monitoring together, and they're present in that environment, maliciously doing so while they are fearful of that evidence. This is relevant to what is obstruction of justice. And so the totality of the podcast is going to be included. You can clearly hear there is absence. There's no conversation. There's nothing that the entity is speaking to occurring. And the entity is also engaged in real-time monitoring on my phone. The video that I'm recording, starting and stopping and starting and stopping, that's monitoring. And the entity is also engaged in what is making up information as to why they're in my presence. Oh, we were told that you were yelling, and there's absolutely no yelling, nor is there yelling now, nor was there a conversation with any other person. You're engaged in monitoring and listening very closely to what it is that I'm speaking about that you're engaged in. All right, you're engaged in that. And there also, while I'm speaking about whatever it is that I'm talking about, there's also no yelling. So the entity that goes to the extent to make up details that are serving to necessitate, I put that in air quotes, the presence of that gang stalker, the Ontario police, that's the entity that commits kidnapping in furtherance of murder while they're engaging in what is sexually violent conduct, monitoring in the bathroom. And if you'll pay attention to what I'm documenting, the entity then injects additional information. Oh, we were told, not that I was yelling in the bathroom, oh, but there's a previous events of recording what, like I'm recording now? No, but not under these circumstances. Well, what circumstances and when did that happen? This is an entity that's engaged in what is monitoring evidence and in real time, just like when they're making up information about prescriptions, making up information about physical violence, making up information about sexual violence that they're actually engaged in. This is the entity kidnapping on June 16, 2022. This is the entity kidnapping on May 29, 2025. That's that same agency stalking literally this morning by helicopter, doing so on an ongoing ceaseless basis in a environment that is speaking to the precise purpose for their presence, which is communicating an unlawful threat. For Chris and for D. Ramos to do so in concert with Abigail, in concert with the entity that's under the fake sun, in other words, while they're engaging in surveillance together, while you are enforcing your rights. Understand, September 28, 2025, that's exactly what Vivanco and Velasquez and Durham are engaging in. While they are monitoring evidence, making up information. Who am I harassing when there is no conversation? Not talking to anyone. So who is it that I'm conversing with? Nobody's outside of the stall. Nobody's speaking to me. Nobody's addressing me. It's absolute silence, actually. And in the same way that I'm using my device, there's no yelling. So what is exactly are you talking about? And who is the one that's stating that you're yelling in the bathroom when the entities engage in that pattern of conduct? Those are the demon-possessed that are mentally ill, stalking with impossible light. And as you surround them with evidence, they commit kidnappings and murders. The entities engaged in this P.O.C, and I want to be clear, Abigail is subject to federal prison for criminal summoning under that fake sun. Chris and D. Ramos do not have any jurisdiction under the law, and they're engaged in criminal surveillance with the OVITT family community library that's engaged in surveillance in the bathroom and making up information as to what is happening in the bathroom, and nothing other than somebody using the bathroom stall and somebody using their device in the bathroom, which you're clearly fully capable to do because that's what they do. When they're engaging in things such as, oh, you were yelling in the bathroom, how do you even know who I am? Nobody was in the bathroom that saw me, okay? So when you're talking about, oh, well, they described you, how did they describe you? You can't even see my skin tone. How do you know that I'm a black woman? How do you know where I'm sitting inside of the computer? How do you know that I'm not still downstairs? These are the demons that are monitoring. Okay, the evidence is showing that Chris and D. Ramos are targeting, and so is Abigail and the entire entity that's engaged in this, engaged in presence inside of this OVITT Family Community Library. And they did so while they were monitoring on my device. This is the entity that engages in desperate tactics. You are both stalking day and night in helicopter, engaging in surveillance, stalking in absurd ways like under a fake sun and with impossible light, and then you stand in my face talking about things that don't factually follow, such as your ability to identify who was in the bathroom when supposedly you're busy using the bathroom and I'm not even talking to you. And you're stating that there was yelling, so now you're also being creative with that. That's the entity that's engaged in criminal summoning, okay? And the Ontario police are at this same venue after 6 p.m. under a fake sun as well. That's also evidence that's surrounding that entity that engages in what is communicating an unlawful threat to the ordinary target individual. That's not a health check, that's a threat to engage in kidnapping. And the entity that wants to expel from the venue because they're being prosecuted for targeting and furtherance of murder. Which, but for monitoring, you don't even have a basis to engage in your malicious iteration of kidnapping via criminal summoning, because you are assuming my identity, you're making up information about yelling, and you're doing so while I am enforcing my rights to use my device. I can use my device in the bathroom. I can talk about what I want to talk about. You're engaged in what is inexplicable harassment. This is what Starbucks is doing as well. Why are you calling the police in order to ask me to make a purchase at Starbucks? And I'm routinely making purchases. Okay, the entity's engaging in what is that pattern of conduct. Again, this is part of the podcast. Those two demons are going to federal prison, but I want to be clear, the entity that's gang stalking at the computer stations sitting next to me, engaging in what is sharing in that fear and the arrival of gang stalkers who are supposed to maintain surveillance. They're the ones that are supposed to be maintaining the protocol regarding your being intimidated and kidnapped and silenced when you are seeking to enforce your rights. That's what Ramos and Chris are supposed to be representing. This is the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C, and they're also doing it under the fake sun at 12 in the afternoon, and the light source is over me as I'm showing at this venue before 10 a.m. during the 9 a.m. hour. It is entirely the P.O.C, Yesenia, Abigail, Lindsay. The employees that are engaged in that pattern of conduct are engaging in a documented pattern of criminal summoning and a documented pattern of kidnapping. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that, while they are very much hostile regarding what they also know is on the internet that they're keeping under surveillance, which is evidence regarding their criminal activity. And they're also exposing severe mental instability, psychopathic behavior, while they engage in what is conduct that can be logically broken down regarding your specific targeting of a person inside of the library, going exactly to where I'm located, knowing exactly who I am. It's supposed to be some sort of anonymous person, and I'm yelling, but how do you know who I am while you are engaged in what is supposedly used in the bathroom? And I'm not even conversing with you, so why are you even concerned about the substance of what I'm talking about if it has nothing to do with you? This is an entity that's making a lot of assumptions, in other words. How do you know that I'm not recording audio for a fictional book that I'm writing while I'm in the bathroom looking for a quiet space? Like I said, it could be a plethora of things while the entity is engaged in targeting. Under the fake sun and an engineer light, the same computer station I'm sitting at right now is where the fake sun is aimed in alignment to me after 5 p.m., where you see Mickey and you see John and you see this entity that's engaged in gang stalking inside of this venue. They're engaged in surveillance, and that is federal prison. This is exactly what they're engaging in, what Sean Thrasher is engaging in. While you're engaged in what is threatening me with the gang stalkers of the Ontario Police, while I reference your name, you are going to federal prison. That's not going to change that. It's going to incriminate the entity that's targeting with you, and it's going to exacerbate those inevitable penalties. But that's what they're doing. Oh my goodness, they're fearful, they're scared. But you are engaging in what is criminal conduct, and the entity engages in more terrorism while they do that. Okay, they're summoning the gang stalkers under the fake sun inside of this venue where the fake sun remains and they drive off, where they're present for the duration of the day, engaging in terrorism, stalking in absurd places like the bathroom, and making a lot of illogical statements in doing so. They're making a lot of assumptions. Those assumptions are based on the fact that they are engaged in gang stalking. This is exactly what is serving Tracy Banks, Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Jason Fields' ongoing role while they're engaged in targeting. And the entity is not engaging in any investigation. I'm engaged in documentation right now, and I am fully under the law capable of engaging in that, and the entity is engaged in what is trying to threaten, engaging in that while they are simultaneously targeting and making concessions, admissions in doing so with regard to everything that you are necessarily assuming, while you want to also maintain an implausible position that you're not targeting, that you're not engaged in surveillance, that you're not a stalker. Okay, the entity is engaging in that while they are, under all circumstances, keeping the evidence under surveillance. It's currently 12:35 p.m. The entity is engaged in what is monitoring on my device at the same time that I'm documenting, and I'm asking them questions that they don't have a right to ask me while you are talking about what you were told. That's what the entity treats as fact, when then they are engaging in what is having the absence of any reasonable suspicion. Somebody making false allegations is not reasonable suspicion. All right, and it doesn't exist when you're engaged in the pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's engaging in the fictitious exercise of authority, which is federal prison for gang stalking police officers. Paul Leon is in relevant position at the Ontario City Hall at 303 East B Street in the same Civic Center, engaging in surveillance. That iteration of that P.O.C, he is within, that office is within the relevant position, engaging what is massive surveillance. So that's all public information. Everything that was stated is a matter of public information. It was an iteration of monitoring that's supposed to threaten and silence the ordinary targeted individual. They're engaged in surveillance in the bathroom, and they're engaged in surveillance throughout the entirety of this venue while they are harassing me, while they know that they're being prosecuted. And they should also know that you're going to prison. You are going to federal prison, and you're engaging in that while you are being exposed for it. And the entity that's doing so with the government is the entity that's going to federal prison with those government actors. Okay, this is relevant position at computer station number 4, engaging what is bathroom monitoring with the third party in the bathroom stall, making what are malicious and fictitious allegations regarding what is no yelling. And I want to be clear, yelling is not the basis to engage in any necessary arrival of the police. They could ask under circumstances, whoa, why are you yelling? None of that happened. This is why you document the entity that's targeting you, because they are malicious psychopaths who commit kidnappings. That's relevant for federal prison for Abigail. Understand? And the employees that are speaking to the gang stalkers in Ontario police uniforms, they are engaged in what is threatening kidnapping as an entity of demons who are under a fake sun. a whole absurdly demonic environment where you're engaging in surveillance and surveillance of the evidence and necessarily making up information to be in my presence and communicate an unlawful threat where you don't even have authority under the actual law. And you're also hostile because I'm necessarily aware of all the bounds of the law that you're in violation of while you're engaged in trying to obstruct justice. In other words, it's P.O.C. It's 12:37 p.m. This is 215 E.C. Street, where you'll see the evidence on Facebook. You'll see the evidence on X. You'll see the evidence as I publish it onto YouTube. And Chris and D. Ramos are going to federal prison, arriving pursuant to what is a threat to commit kidnapping with the OVITT Family Community Library, who remains under a fake sun until sunset. That's the malice behind the conversation had with Abigail, with the that's a Securitas employee who's engaged in what is gang stalking. The entity that's inside of this same venue, remember at 5 p.m. where sunlight is stretching into the depths of this library, and that fake sun is necessarily still present, even though that's not even the product of sunlight. That's giving you context regarding the malice of all the psychopaths that are engaging in surveillance in bathrooms where they make up information regarding surveillance that they're engaging in. Okay, so when you are speaking calmly and documenting and enforcing your rights, and then the entity has to try to falsely depict your character as being some unstable person that's going around speaking and yelling gibberish, that's the entity that's engaged in criminal summoning and is actually suffering from severe mental illness that poses a threat to the public. Fields is going to prison for this. This is what they solicited together, and Fields is still gang stalking, and Fields represents a threat to American citizens while he is engaging in what is targeting with the city of Ontario, which represents the state. And gang stalking me day and night by that same agency using helicopters, and then with a straight face to be in my presence and ask those questions, that's the delusional psychopath. Everybody in this building is engaged in gang stalking. This is P.O.C. It's 12:39 p.m.
Asher Airport, tracking my steps, stalking by hovering right here, and I mean immediately. This demon is stalking. She gets out of her vehicle. I took a picture. She's engaged in surveillance, and the entity is flying right over. There's no airport takeoff. They're stalking, just like you saw with Impossible Light, and so are all these demons whose license plates I'm going to document. They're gang stalking at Bethel Congregation at 536 North Euclid Avenue. The demon-possessed people that say that you see molesting me with Impossible Light, stalking by driving next to a building, and Impossible Light sweeps across, are doing the same thing at nightfall, while sex offenders who are of the female gender, homosexuals that are obsessed with my vagina, gang stalking as an entity. This demon driving away, her co-defendant is right here, license 9GUH736, shares in sexual assault and battery. And so does that sex offender who's a homosexual predator, keeping another woman under surveillance while she is engaged in what is molesting her body and stalking her in the middle of the night. Stalking in the middle of the night with the airport, the demons, the psychopaths that are taking off over this street, gang stalking as an entity. They are still targeting, and I want to be clear, the entity that is gang stalking is conspiring murder, and that's exactly what D. Ramos and Chris were engaging in with the Ontario Police Department coming into the OVITT Family Community Library where this pattern of conduct is underway. And those two demons are going to prison, and so are the kidnappers at the OVITT Family Community Library. You are delusional to be documented stalking me everywhere, every moment, and then you're engaging what is being in my face, engaging in a malicious iteration of the P.O.C. like somebody told you something that did not happen in the bathroom where you're monitoring my vagina. Those two demons are going to be diagnosed with the audible activity that came out of their faces while they were monitoring. They're going to federal prison. And so are the demons that engage in criminal summoning, the ones that are crouching in bathroom stalls like this homosexual predator stalking in a bathroom, in concert with the psychopaths that are stalking in planes. License 8TBX605. This is P.O.C. Amazon Prime is gang stalking. You already know that. You already know that, and they're gang stalking. They're listening to me now. I'm going to prosecute that company. Bezos has a big problem on his hands. He's a domestic terrorist. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:30 p.m. That are gang stalking. I'm going to show you. That's Impossible Light. You see the multiple shadows of the trees? These are demons as I get in right here, stalking with Impossible Light. And this is a shadow here, and here's another shadow here. These are sex offenders touching my backside with engineer light. Doing so as stalkers. These are the ones that are engaging in stalking with Impossible Light. License plate. That's sex offender, co-conspiring murder. 8EMX043, and this psychopath gets out of the vehicle, stopping in the middle of the street so that they can engage in what is molesting a woman with light. Okay, you're gonna deport sex offenders like this. They're not natural born citizens. You're gonna prosecute Lyft and Uber while they're gang stalking. Whatever iteration of the P.O.C. this is, you're gonna prosecute for it. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in gang stalking. It comes with the Ontario Police Department. These are demons wanting to touch. These sex offenders are gonna be prosecuted. Co-conspiring murder. 6ZGS250 P.O.C. And the entity has my shadow surrounding while they're engaging in a sex offense with the demons that are in relevant position gang stalking inside of a fake church. Okay, here's my shadow gathering as a group in front of me, perpendicular to each other, running parallel, and running behind me. This is the light activity inside of OVITT Family Community Library, where you're engaged in criminal summoning upon gang stalking. Not calling the police regarding what is the danger of somebody that you suspect is engaged in what is just ongoing gibberish, while the entity is engaged in what is stalking. This is absurd. This is P.O.C. 7:33 p.m. All right, gang stalking. It's 7:35 p.m. This is the parking lot that the Ontario International Airport is flying over, targeting me on Euclid Avenue. The Ontario Airport Board, the Ontario Executive Team, is engaged in what is conspiring by murder while demons are flying commercial planes in the city of Ontario, doing so while stalking on every street location where I'm at in the city of Ontario, where there are no airport takeoffs from 2500 Airport Drive. And it's also not a coincidence when it's happening in this specific environment and where the people of the state are in relevant position. That includes the gang stalkers, the demons of the BETHEL congregation, who are maintaining criminal surveillance with the city of Ontario. License 6ELV465, 7TVG852, 7EJU276. Let me let you listen to the plane activity where I'm going to prosecute all them. Flying sideways over the parking lot. There's no takeoff. So this is the entity that's just engaged in what is obvious stalking, just like they did with Impossible Light. You need to know that the demon-possessed sit up in fake churches like Bethel Congregation while they're stalking me with Impossible Light activity with the demons that use planes flying over me in the parking lot amongst the demons who are hostile. While you expose them, oh, they're supposed to be Christians. No, when you document, their demon possession comes out. And that's what I'm exposing right now. That's why the entity is stalking with commercial planes, which is inexplicable in a prosecution and in a courtroom. Because that's not going to happen when you're engaged in what are legitimate flights and you're not targeting me in furtherance of murder, such that I would even be able to document that. License 7LUP951. This is the entity that's threatening my life and conspiring murder with the government while gang stalk, keeping me under surveillance. 7EJU276. This is the population that's subject to deportation. 7NQG940. Indiscriminate deportation because they're all, as a population, as a city, as a state, engaging in what is terrorism. 9PMC515, 7ZXN149, 9GRJ898, 7YYL328, 5NDB311, 7TTJ209, 8CLE522, 8TBG133, 8ZYN234, 8AUL313, 8LCU680, 8TEE567, and the gang stalkers at ARCO, 434 North Euclid Avenue, at CHEVRON, 506 North Euclid Avenue, documenting the fake sunrise and set. They are adjacent to the gang stalking fake church right here full of demons. And those are demons that are engaging in criminal activity as well. And they are also likely immigrants. This is relevant to what is the ongoing deportation policy. They're sitting inside of CHEVRON monitoring while the entity is stalking using the airport. They are being simultaneously documented. And that's why you're going to be able to, and targeting domestic terrorists shall include deportation of every gang stalker, every domestic terrorist that is in the city of Ontario, working for CHEVRON, working for ARCO, congregating at fake churches, driving on the roads and the highways, engaging in surveillance, maintaining residence in the city, in the state, while they're engaged in gang stalking with the state of California, which does its co-defendants, the gang stalking immigrants, and injustice. You're not doing them a very good service while you're engaging in what is providing evidence against them. The government that is gang stalking is doing so with the people of the state who surround. 9NMG237. License 16445F2, 82380C4. This is P.O.C. and at 7:39 p.m., the entity's engaged in what is, not only is it flight over, but the entity's engaged in what is like doing like a sideways flip, like they're doing some sort of backward flip over the building, where, what does that even have to do? They're not even appearing as though they're engaging in any, well, you can at this distance, but the entity's clearly just engaged in what is stalking, dipping over the building, crossing path, creating audible noise in the engineer light, and I have a parking lot full of my shadow, okay? They're all inside of this fake church and they know where I'm at, they know what I'm stating, and they also know that they're being documented. That's why the entity is targeting me at the parking lot with plane activity that has nothing to do with what is published with regard to the criminal system that the Ontario International Airport is engaged in while it's doubling as an airport and it's actually engaged in terrorism and furtherance of murder. Okay, that's the significance of the inability to reconcile what I'm documenting versus what is published regarding flights and destinations and passengers. And the entity that's engaging what is accepting money in order to conduct flights to destinations. This is P.O.C. 8YWC173. Bethel Congregation is located under the fake sun as well. I've documented it, both the sunrise and in the middle of the afternoon, while they are gang stalking me and they are maintaining church services like they are now. They're inside of the building and they're gang stalking. This is the entity that shows the fact that they're demons. That includes those that hide under the guise of religion. And it is religion. Okay? When you are engaged in what is having no relationship with Christ Jesus, when you say one thing and you live another way, and that is your lifestyle. I don't mean a sinner that falls and a righteous man falls and he gets back up 7 times. That means you fall, you get right back up, you fall, you get right back up. But a life of a hypocrite. You don't even believe that which you espouse. The people will find out that you're a cocaine dealer and that you have sex with little kids while you're a pastor. Okay, I'm talking about the entity, and it's sin is sin, but I want to be clear. You're engaging in what is a lifestyle that's totally absurd with regard to what you claim to believe. That's different from somebody that is claiming to be a believer and you're a whole demon. NVRLAON. You are not a believer when you're demon possessed, and you are demon possessed stalking amongst the entity under a fake sun with engineer light and doing so with noise. That's what these demons are doing. They are the Nephilim. There is no Christ saved Nephilim. There is no Bible believing Nephilim. There is no saved Christian that is of the Nephilim. These are demons, and they're sitting inside of a building calling itself a church. And the more, as you've seen, that I expose the fact that they're demons and that they're stalking and things like that embarrasses them, that they're obsessed with my vagina, that they're stalking in bathrooms, you see their demon possession come out more and more. In other words, it's always been there. Those demons show the animals that they are as they are exposed. And that's because Satan does not have the fruit of the self-control, which is providence for a prosecutor like myself. And I need you to show what you are in order for me to prosecute you. 9DMX440, P.O.C, license plate, gang stalking, 8MBJ074. All right, this is the P.O.C. It is currently 7:42 p.m., so understand and recognize the difference. A lifestyle of sin, meaning you're just living in sin, in transgression, you know what the word says, and you are not saved. Do not be deceived. The Lord isn't making suggestions about what he wants you to do, he wishes you would do, and you are or you are not. Those who love him, obey him. Okay, and so I just want to be clear. These are demons. This is no mistaking. This is criminal conduct, which is demonic activity at the same time. The Nephilim are demons, and it's a population of them, and they also engage in what is playing religion. Walking with Christ Jesus and have a relationship with him is not religion. It is a lifestyle. It's a faith-based lifestyle. You know him and you receive him by faith. You confess your sins, you repent, and you are baptized. And you follow what it is that he says. That's not a religion. Religion is man's effort, which is, again, filthy rags before the Lord, because your efforts are nothing to him. You cannot justify yourself before God, which is the effort of man with religion. Making up your own rules. Well, I'm going to do this because this is good and then this will make me right. No, you cannot justify yourself before God. He has stated what the requirement is. And if you don't want to conform to that, that's your decision. Understand, just like gang stalking me, just like targeting with impossible light activity, stalking under a fake sun, making statements that have a legal significance, there's a consequence for it. There is a consequence for it, and I'm not making myself equal with Christ, but what I'm stating is that there is a consequence for every decision that you make. Every one, every single last one. These people made decisions a long time ago, by the way, and they are irreversible decisions. and you're witnessing what is judgment. And this is just a reminder regarding what is religion. These demons sitting in this building that just says church on the outside, that's religion. Those are demons. They're criminals as well. You are not living a lifestyle of criminal activity when you know Christ Jesus. You are not doing that. You're not doing that. You do not live a lifestyle of sin. You are certainly not a demon-possessed gang stalker when you are a Christian, when you know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And he is the only true and living God, okay? This is P.O.C. The entity is engaging with its ongoing psychopathic pacing over the venue, so I'm going to go ahead and capture that. That's not a coincidence while I'm at the parking lot. These are demons exhibiting severe mental illness in doing so, and that's shared by the demons that are gang stalking with them inside of Bethel congregation of 536 North Euclid Avenue. I just read all their license plates on the podcast. They're engaged in the P.O.C. They also are on Sunday morning when the fake sun is over me at this same venue. This entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct because where I stand right now, where the entity is stalking in the path, understand this is what they're doing when I'm on that street at Euclid Avenue, flying to get in alignment with my person. That's a demon that's monitoring. And the Ontario board, the Ontario executive team are engaged in monitoring with demons that get in the path with a method of light. That's a demon that's stalking, and they are all inside of this building right now. 536 North Euclid Avenue is not a church. It's a facilitating venue with regard to prosecuting the government for engaging in the system of surveillance and furtherance of murder. Fake Christians in Ontario, California, in the state of California, are engaged in what is conspiracy to commit murder while they are gang stalking. No different than any coke-taking demon that is engaged in criminal activity on a daily basis with a criminal record. Okay? They're not different. They're demons alike. And I want to be clear, this is the entity that's engaging in that amongst the immigrants who are going to be deported. License 9TYM964. License plate, this is stalking and surrounding with light. And this is mental illness. This is mental illness. This is them stalking with impossible light, moving across the buildings and whatnot. This is the nighttime iteration of that, surrounding with light. This is mental illness. License plate 8UYR535. That's demonic pacing. She's not trying to park. That's demonic pacing. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that has the Apostolic Prophetica Iglesia. It's a gang stalker facilitating venue. You're going to be deported out of this country. The entity is maintaining an immigration attorney firm right here, representing clients that are gang stalkers, that they're subject to deportation. The entity is in a neighborhood where you likely have what is the entity full of immigrants, where you have venues that are catering to that community. They're subject to deportation, and the entity is stalking me in that neighborhood. This is the P.O.C. It is currently, like I stated, 7:46 p.m. That's the entity that's engaging what is taken off right here, concentrating plane activity where my person is positioned, and doing so with regard to that unnatural environment. This is demonic and it's mental illness. And this is, again, let me show you proof of mental illness. This is my shadow appearing across the street. Okay? That's a demon. That's a demon. And this is a co-conspirator of murder with the Ontario Police Department. All right, this is somebody that's gang stalking under the criminal facilitation of a gang stalking mayor. This is an entity that's gang stalking with the demons calling themselves EMTs and wanting to be mistaken as a fire department. American Medical Response in the Ontario Fire Department. The entity that's gang stalking calling itself an airport, it is no such airport. In this environment, they are stalking in the path where I'm positioned, and furtherance of murder, gang stalking, psychological torture, stalking by a population of demons. This is the Nephilim. And they're sitting inside of here calling themselves a church. That was my shadow moving across that building. These are demons. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:47 p.m. License 6FKD356, mental illness. License 5MCNEAL, mental illness. And they're acting together with this demon that's maintaining light aimed. And that's my shadow that's appearing at a distance away from me. And let me show you what is no light activity that's going to create that. That light is not shooting at that level to create your shadow projected. And I also have my shadow on the ground and another shadow here. These are demons. This is P.O.C. I documented this parking lot full of demons hiding behind the guise of religion. And it's not going to help you before Christ when you stand before him, and it's also not going to help you in federal court. This is P.O.C. All right, documenting the entity, as you can hear, the entity is stalking with the airport that's maintaining ongoing surveillance as a corrupt entity. The demons inside of Chevron, any gang stalking immigrants, they are simultaneously being exposed as a corrupt city. They're being deported. Every immigrant in the city of Ontario is being deported. Everyone that's engaged in what is kidnapping with the city of Ontario, they're going to federal prison. The entity that's engaged in, and that includes the entity, the city of Ontario, that's being removed, is being shut down because they share in kidnapping me. All right, the entity's gang stalking with the Ontario police that's using the plane activity while they're monitoring demons, psychopaths that are wearing police uniforms who are actually monitoring spirits. Okay, now that is relevant to what is terrorism, because that psychopathic disorder stood in front of me today, calling itself an officer with D. Ramos and Christ, while they were engaged in what is the pattern of conduct. They're engaged in what is harassing me because I am exposing the fact that they monitor vagina, they monitor genitalia in bathrooms in Ontario. And as you pay attention to my podcast and the documentation, you can see that they're clearly gang stalkers. You see the specific environment, which is also inside of the bathroom. But not only that, you're listening to what they said versus what the evidence shows happened. That's also going to be used to diagnose them. In addition to the fake son, the stalking with light conduct, the dressing up like a legitimate officer when you're nothing but a demon, that's all going to be relevant to diagnosis of mental illness. License ADL E93. That's a Colorado plate, it looks like. These demons are gang stalking, so is Allied Universal. Okay, gang stalking as companies. This is the entity that's engaged in gang stalking as fake churches, gang stalking as a Starbucks cafe, committing kidnapping. They're engaged in this conduct while they are going to be facing what is deportation, federal prison, prosecution for terrorism in the state of California. And they're doing so with regard to exposing the entire state of California. The entire state is gang stalking. That's what the city of Ontario has taught you, and their criminal conduct in Ontario is juxtaposed with every other city and county that I already have on the record. This is how you know that Karen Bass and the city of LA are full of demons. 8MWT077 molesting, 8SOF645 sex offender molesting, 8MVL108 sex offender molesting, and their co-conspirators of murder while the entity is stalking with the city of Ontario, maintaining plane activity over the parking lot at 536 North Euclid Avenue. 310-310-089, that's Nevada. The bucket crabs and crawfish is gang stalking. El Pescado is gang stalking. You already know that the entire shopping center, W.S.S. and Pizza Hut, 715 North Euclid Avenue, is gang stalking. The Ontario International Airport flew over the Pizza Hut while I was sitting inside of it last night, and I took a picture of that while demons are stalking with light. These are sex offenders. And they're also demons that engage in that. License 15771Z3, 6FKD356, 9JKX047, 8AZS843, 9SMW294. 5 McNeil came right over here and parked inside of bucket crabs and crawfish, in between bucket crab, crawfish, and El Pescado, gang stalking and doing so, and is gang stalking right now inside of those venues. Those venues that are going to be prosecuted. 8YXB558, 8TIJ834, 9SMW294, 8JYA277, 8RFJ933, 7SOZ132, 9GVH242, 8ELX518, 7ZAA850, 8PHZ721, 8CDK856, 7HCC182, 9TOH745, 8SSV957, 3NEB347, 5MVE945, 9FXM555, EG92K07, that's a paper plate on a Tro Pro. That's a Toyota. The entity is following with planes as I walk. That would be north to the adjacent parking lot. So does the plane activity. So no longer making U-turns over the parking lot of Bethel, now stalking, flying over these venues, over bucket crab and crawfish, over the 602 North Euclid Avenue address. And they're gang stalking. They are literally stalking in planes, and that's the entity that's going to be mentally diagnosed, including the demons on the Ontario, so-called Ontario board, calling yourself a president of the Ontario Authority, Airport Authority. The demons calling themselves an Ontario executive team. They're going to be subject to mental examinations, and so are gang stalking pilots. Mental examinations, federal prison mental examinations. That's what's coming. All right. It is currently, by the way, 7:53 p.m. The entity is indeed stalking me with planes while a bunch of demons are surrounding. And demons are surrounding by having gas stations, by having banks, by having residences, by having grocery stores, by having venues where you're, picking up fast food. In other words, every business is engaged in surveillance. That's a means of presence where the entity is engaged in what is exposed as public corruption. And you see there is no difference with regard to being outside of the doors of an alleged church. That is no church. It's a synagogue of Satan, but it is no church of Christ, not at all. That's what Satan does. He hides behind titles. License plate. There's no hiding from the P.O.C. I'm going to prosecute you, and there's no getting out of it either. License 8JUE733, 7HZM806, 9JDB728. That's audible activity while El Pescado was gang stalking. 8EHM151. 6SZD953. You need to understand that everything that they're doing inside of these buildings, everything that they're doing in traffic, everything that is surrounding me, that's how psychopathic the demon-possessed are, and they've proven that. They keep a whole fake sun over me, and all throughout the world, all day long, it's over Erica Spencer, where I'm at, whatever building I'm inside of. Even until the evening, you saw it over me as I walked to the library this morning at 10, and where was it after 5 p.m., 5:45 p.m., it was still in alignment to me where I'm sitting inside of the same OVITT Family Community Library, which excludes the fact that it could ever be over El Pescado on the same street, or over Economy N on the same street nearest the 60 freeway, or in any other city or location either. That's how obsessed with me they are. That's how much their lives are surrounding me. And that is them stalking in bathrooms and then making up information because they're more obsessed than they are intelligent, making up information that is clearly false as I document the demon-possessed, who are going to prison for trying to frame an American citizen and have them kidnapped, because that's what that was. You're going to prison for showing up. You're going to prison for criminally summoning and gang stalking with those demons of the Ontario Police. 9AYB592. 12415K2, 9GID007, 27537G2, 8WNN003, 8WLB958, 8ZZX330. I think I read those already. 7FDP563. El Pescado is located at G Street in Euclid. I've documented the fake sun rising. I've documented the fake sun over me on this same street, Euclid Avenue, coming from LA in the middle of the afternoon. The Ontario International Airport is stalking, flying over Euclid Avenue at this end, which is irreconcilable with what they would like to, but they cannot maintain any plausible position other than showing that they've been stalking me as an airport. But I have them stalking me while I'm in my vehicle. Fake sun remained over me en route to Ontario from LA County, and the entity has the fake sun over me as I'm being gang stalked by El Pescado, that establishment, while the fake sun is over me, is going to be prosecuted. And they're gang stalking right now. 7RRA216, 9ALH565, 8SQY884, 9HFP755, 9MJB683, 9TXA453, 9HUW308. License 8VOC978, stalking in the path, license 9RIW983. Coming out to the parking lot, being in perfect alignment with me while they're standing outside. Those are demons. License 9JCL555, 7NUW583, 7GTA443, 00841B4, 8YIM306, 9SXW161. 9PMG743, because I didn't read that one. 6VVT305, EG64Y99 paper. 8WRZ156, 8CHN382, 7EOR791, 7XCN397, 01719U3, EH13805 paper. 9CDU446, 7FGN059, 7LIB119. You need to understand that every license plate and many, many more share in what is stalking and harassing and terrorizing and psychologically torturing, while an entity uses a whole airport, which is a lot of money and manpower. And that requires a lot of involvement for you to be using an airport and commercial planes. That's speaking to an airline. A lot of money, a lot of resources engaged in what is stalking with a commercial plane. All of that, they're all sharing in that criminal act together, conspiring the murder of the person that they are exerting all of that energy toward. Okay, that energy in the form of money, resources, manpower, conspiring, and also trying to cover it up at the same time, trying to appear as a legitimate airport, trying to appear as a legitimate business. You don't even appear as a normal human or a sane human being stalking under a fake sun and with impossible light. But this is the entity that engages in that system. It's still exerting a lot of energy, albeit unsuccessfully and unpersuasively, but it's still the expenditure of a lot of energy. Demons that are stalking. 9JOB504, ongoing sexual assault and battery, which every business is going to share in. License 9RKN591. Even while they're being documented, all they're obsessed with is stalking. That's it. They're still molesting. They're still stalking. They are going to be subject to mental examinations and criminal prosecutions. License 9VEE409, 9UXZ531, 9TIV196, 5UGL900, 9RCH477, 8FOD584. 8LDU 776, 7HRJ 692, 8WLU 824, 9JPD 716. They're all engaged in criminal summoning right now. 9PZM 551. All they're concerned about is still stalking. That's it. That's all they're concerned about. Even while this whole demonic structure is imploding, while they are waiting and scared to death about who's going to be raided first, while they are frightened about going to prison, they are still obsessively stalking. They are going to be subject to mental examinations and a federal criminal prosecution. Okay? And that includes businesses. Gang stalking businesses are going to be prosecuted for crimes. A business is conspiring your murder. A business is sexually violating you. A business is targeting you, conspiring your murder while they are keeping that environment around you, which they're doing with any customer, with any employer, with any employee, with any government actor. They are all the same entity, and you will be prosecuting businesses for criminal activity. All right, that's the entity that's engaged in a massive, that's the entire city. While the entity is engaged in what is criminal summoning, as I've documented, the entire city of Ontario is going to be prosecuted, and every gang stalking business in that city is subject to that criminal prosecution. And it's relevant to what is a national security concern. My public service announcement regarding mental illness that you need to be made aware of. Mental illness that is, again, pervasive. And demons are hiding their mental illness behind police uniforms, hiding mental illness behind ambulance vehicles and acronyms like EMTs, hiding mental illness behind what is positions that they hold, behind religion, okay, behind the neighborhoods that they live in, which again is totally illogical. But again, I'm speaking to a very superficial population. So those of you that are listening, if you are a part of this and you're easily deceived, you need to open your eyes, because Satan is hiding in plain sight, and the tactics of Satan are right in front of your face. That's why you're all amazed by me showing you the evidence of the fake sun, but it's been in your face the whole time. Okay, now that's what I'm getting to is I don't expect everyone to have noticed that. I understand that, but what I am stating is that that's the level of deception that's very plain and obvious. It's right in your face. You're looking at it. You just don't know what you're looking at. And it is requiring what is basically, not basically, but it is inevitably a relationship with Christ Jesus, who gives you the ability to see what Satan does not want you to see, what Satan intends to deceive the masses with. If you do not know Christ Jesus, you're going to fall to the wayside like everybody else. You're going to be deceived like everyone else. You're not going to make it. You are not going to make it. Many and many are going to lose their lives. They're going to lose their lives, and they're going to lose their lives in darkness. They're going to be deceived. The masses are going to be deceived, believing the lie. And the lie wants to appear like this, wants to appear passionate and concerned and aligned with what is Christ Jesus, even using the lingo. Okay, whatever this new lingo is totally unbiblical. But like I said, if you don't know scripture, then you don't even know that. You don't have any red flags going off in your mind, because you don't know God. You don't know scripture. You don't know God. Okay, and so I just want to be clear. There's only one God, and so people that have all that, I'm not going to debate. It's not up for debate. I've been surrounded by demons my whole life, and so now understanding that it wasn't that they didn't know God. It's not that they didn't believe because they just didn't understand God, or these are demons, and they had made a decision long time ago, knowing that I love the Lord, and they set their life out toward targeting me as an enemy, a spiritual enemy, right in front of my face. It is not up for debate. The truth is what it is. Just like the fake sun is a scientific fact, and it doesn't change whether you want to believe it or not. But it's unreasonable for you not to believe it, and you cannot state that you were not told about it. You cannot state that you were not warned, because there is a lot that is revealed regarding the specific environment, regarding harm that is intended to you, regarding a threat that you need to be made aware of, regarding criminal conduct, state action that is underway that wants to maintain an ongoing level of secrecy, and it can't exist anymore. It's been totally exposed, but there's a lot behind what it is that I've shown about the pattern of conduct. Information that you need to be made aware of. Information that's going to impact us, meaning this country, and that would be inevitably be the world in the future. Christ Jesus is coming back, though. He's coming back, and he's coming back in judgment. And the mentally ill are the demon-possessed who are going to be facing judgment. all of us are going to stand before him, but those who do not know Christ, it's woe to you, okay? It's woe to them. Seriously, they've already lost their minds. You're looking at rampant mental illness. You're looking at those that have, in other words, totally abandoned their own interests, their own purpose. They don't even know it because they have totally devoted themselves to the agenda of Satan. Even you're going to prison for what you're doing and they don't care. They're endangering their own kids and their own future and their own well-being and those that are relying on them that they're connected to. They don't care. They're gang stalking. They are totally almost like obligated. There's a sense of obligation, and many of them are because they've engaged in witchcrafts, all sort of demonic contracts. I don't know anything about that, but it's there is a sense of some obligatory devotion to what is serving your demise. So now they're obligated toward what is their demise because you're being prosecuted. You're being exposed worldwide. And that's not good for the Nephilim with regard to, but it is excellent with regard to God's will. But it is not good with regard to Satan's agenda. It's not good at all. They want to exist amongst you. They don't want you to know that they're there, though. Okay? Nonetheless, they also don't want you to know the threat that they intend, the harm that they intend towards you. But you are able to see their mental illness, the evidence of it. You're able to see it, witness it. License plate 8BNT106, molesting with impossible light by the demons at Chevron. And the employee, again, that's engaged in that sex offense was going to be subject to deportation. License plate 7XIY347. While this demon is sitting, aiming light toward me, like the predators that are exhibiting mental illness everywhere, stalking with light. Doing so with regard to that pattern of conduct. So let me show you the multiple shadows, speaking to the context regarding somebody that is always aiming light toward you while they're monitoring, conspiring your murder. This is a license plate of another homosexual predator. This is another gang stalking female obsessed with my vagina, monitoring license 14355R3, and this homosexual predator has no license plate on her car. How pathetic. This is the entity that's gang stalking, engaging in what is predatory conduct. But I want to be clear, this gang stalker 7XIY347 in Chevron and ARCO, they're gang stalking with the sex offender that's molesting you with light. A psychopath is sitting there aiming light on you in the middle of the night. Instead of proceeding and driving out of the parking lot, you're a deranged psychopath. Okay? This is a demon walking around looking like a boy, and she's also obsessed with my vagina. Okay? And she's engaged in predatory conduct while she's molesting with impossible light. The government, that is the Ontario Police, are being disbanded for this psychopathic conduct that they sharing with the population. That engages in criminal summoning, driving around with no license plate. Those are the cowards that are mentally ill who engage in what is making up information that doesn't even make any sense when I prosecute and show and prove that they're lying demons and violent sex offenders. Okay? But guess what? While that demon, this one right here, Balbir, is being deported, Germans being deported, and this one licensed 7XIY347 being deported. They're being deported. So the entity's engaging in this, and you are not getting away with anything. Your co-defendants, they're getting deported out the country. They're harming each other. Nobody's getting away with anything either. There is more than one manner of documentation. I'm not the only one that's engaged in what is investigating this entity right now. I'm not the only one with eyes on her. Okay? The entities engaging in this conduct, and they're doing so while they have been under investigation, which I said years ago. And now they're facing a prosecution, which I said years ago, and the demon-possessed continuously targeted me in the face of the federal government. The federal government, that is a part of the criminal pattern of conduct, but the federal government that's being forced to do its job. I'll put it that way. It's being forced to do its job. The entity is engaged in this, and the entity is a demonic one. Okay, this is mental illness while they are obsessed with aiming light around the place. You need to understand that that's the outward demonstration. They are proving and showing to you that they are absolutely bat poo crazy. Okay, that's the type of crazy you wake up in the middle of the night, they're standing over you, gibbering, mad. That's the type of mental illness they're trying to hide from you. Closeted mental illness. You can see it through their behavior. And that behavior is occurring in the specific environment, and it is a threat to your life. It's a threat to the vulnerable in the population. And I'm not talking about, well, it is a threat to other demons. They're a threat to each other, and they will be engaging in harming each other. But I'm talking about those that need to know, those that serve Christ, those that need to be put on alert, those that are, and the Lord knows who you are. I'm not worried about demons out here. I'm not, and yes, you are. I don't care about that. The Lord knows who you are and those who need to hear this message, because you are the ones that need to know. You need to know about what surrounds, because they want to prey upon you, and they don't want you to know that they're there. They don't want you to know what their focus is. And because they're monitoring spirits, they are aware when you become aware. But that is nothing to fear. That's nothing to fear. You need to be made aware. Everybody knows, okay? They're the ones who are fearful because everybody knows that they're here now. Everybody knows. Okay, it is currently 8:08 p.m. The government's going to be prosecuted. This is why the Ontario Police is being disbanded, because of that mental illness that's stalking me day and night. Doing so while they are also making money. That's a gang stalking company. Doing so while they're feigning religion. A whole bunch of demons congregated in a church building, engaging in terrorism at the same time. Can you understand that? The levels of what is malicious conduct, which is relevant to mental illness, that's a behavioral health concern. That's a threat to the public. It's both criminal conduct and the ability to assess mental illness. That's the public corruption that the demon-possessed are engaged in. And it's removing Paul Leon from office. It's disbanding Mike Lorenz's Ontario Police. He's being federally prosecuted, him and Derek Williams. They've been engaged in conspiring my murder for years. Derek Williams is in the position of police chief before he resigned, which I believe is in 2000 and, if not 2020, 2019. All right, and he's engaged in kidnapping. Jonathan Burnett is engaged in a kidnapping as an entity. And Derek Williams, and regardless, Derek Williams is engaged in targeting me as a terrorist leader, and I'm going to prosecute you for that. This is how you're going to target domestic terrorists who are doing so while they're maintaining a bully system. That's what you witnessed today. And coming in with weak lies, a pattern of them engaging in what is approaching me with lies. And I want to be clear, even when you're documenting, you are engaged in what is I will state it again. The government has no jurisdiction to stop you from protecting your life, including even when you are under the alternate universe where they are acting like it's a private property or public property, using my phone and recording the engineer light, recording what is anything that I want. I'm not recording anybody's genitalia. That's them engaging in sexual violence. The government has no authority. The government's the criminal. So the government, and the shoes being the criminal, wants to then state, oh, you're recording. I am recording you, Satan. Absolutely. You're trying to murder me in secret. They're going to be diagnosed with that evidence. That's what you understand. That's how you're going to use that. The malice of the entity that thinks it's going to maintain some secret bullying system is going to be thereby prosecuted and mentally assessed by it. You stalked me in a helicopter at Chevron, in the middle of the parking lot at ARCO. You're gang stalking me on a daily basis, flying over the top of my head as I go back to this bus stop. You're stalking me day and night. You listen to them stalking using sirens, engaging in criminal summoning, and then you step in my face inside of the library, talk about somebody told you something. And there was never, you heard what happened inside of the bathroom. That's what's going to be mentally assessed. That's what's being disbanded. That's what's serving to prosecute Mike Lorenz. He does not have a defense in court. I'm going to prosecute him and Derek Williams. The entity is engaged in what is mentally ill behavior, stalking and playing, doing so over the top of my head. I'm documenting that right now. The entity engages in criminal summoning. This is the entity aligning with stalking with Starbucks is in relevant position as well. The traffic lights is a means of light activity, flying over the top of my head. That's an entity that's threatening your life, including when they do so by helicopter, including when they do so by commercial plane. And they're doing that in the specific environment. The entity has engineer light moving across this curve. That's not their headlights. 9DZA928 is a psychopath, okay? And they're engaged in what is targeting. Looking to the left and right is evidence that's going to be used to diagnose you. It's not evidence of your ignorance. It's not evidence that you're not gang stalking. You're already surrounded with the evidence. Everybody knows what you are and what you're doing. While you behave in a manner that is delusional, you're going to be diagnosed with regard to mental illness. This is P.O.C. The entity just flew over my head, and now they're not flying over Bethel congregation over there. They're stalking, flying where I am, where the entity is engaged in what is maintaining the elements of monitoring. This is P.O.C. This is the Nephilim. This is what is making up the Ontario Police Department, and it's going to be removed from position. That level of malice, that is intolerable. What the OVITT Family Community Library and that same duo committed kidnapping with the Ontario International Airport. Alan D. Wapner, Jim Berman, Kurt Hagman, Ronald Loveridge, and Julia Gu, they are going to be prosecuted as co-conspirators of murder, and every gang-stalking airline is going to be prosecuted as well. You need to know that they're murdering American citizens. That's what the city of Ontario is showing you. That's what the Nephilim is revealing to you about their mental illness also that you need to know. Psychopaths sitting around aiming light. That's what they're doing. They're aiming light while they're monitoring. Psychopaths, serial killers, pedophiles, sex offenders, kidnappers. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:12 p.m. UNICARE Community Health Center, Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue, gang stalking over here at Light. They're engaged in what is presence in the path, and they're engaged in criminal monitoring, and the entity is as well at 536 North Euclid Avenue. I'm just no longer in that parking lot where the demons were flying over there. Look at the previous video. They were flying over that parking lot, stalking me and doing so. Where there's no takeoffs at all. And there's also no sun that would rise and set at this parking lot, but that's also what I have on the record. This is P.O.C. This is exposing mental illness and public corruption and furtherance of murder, gang stalking. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, capturing that video, the entities engaging in that pattern of conduct while they're listening to what is damning evidence, which is again delusional. But I'm always letting you know what is their motive behind what they're doing as they do it. It's not just to gang stalk me. It's because they don't want you to hear something that I'm stating. The fact that they're monitoring vagina in bathrooms, the fact that they are delusional psychopaths, the fact that they are bat poo crazy, doing things such as sitting around stalking with light, which is delusional. It's psychotic. It is abnormal, demented behavior. You see them driving around and light is inexplicably appearing and swiping across the wall. That's a psychopath, okay? That's a mentally unstable person, and that is a person filled with demons. They are a demon-possessed people. And they're also stalking in commercial planes. And that's going to be a federal prosecution of not just the airport itself, which represents the entity. The demons that are flying in the planes, they're going to prison. They're going to be subject to mental examinations. It's the same with the demons that are gang stalking at the police department. The demons that are flying the helicopters, they're going to prison. The demons that are engaged in criminal summoning, like you saw today, D. Ramos and Christ, they're going to prison. The demons that are gang stalking me as I'm documenting them, like Alex Escobar under the 12:51 p.m. fake sun at 333 North Euclid Avenue, the U.S. Bank, while it's simultaneously over West Valley Detention Center at 9500 Etowanda Avenue, same time of year. How do you have that? Because Alex Escobar is a demon-possessed gang stalker conspiring my murder as a whole agency. Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted as a terrorist leader, and so is Derek Williams. And every demon, a part of that agency, is going to prison while they engaged in criminal summoning, while they engaged in being documented gang stalking me in furtherance of murder, while they're also engaged in what is kidnapping. They're going to prison. Alex Escobar did commit kidnapping as an entity on July 4th, 2025 as well. He's going to prison. All roads lead to prison for gang stalking police officers. That oxymoron is going to be met with federal prison. All right? It is currently 8:15 p.m. Upon kidnapping, disbanding is also mandated. Those that are engaged in what is targeting you with gang stalking police, guess what? It's federal prison and mental examinations. A gang stalking mayor targeting American citizens, guess what that is? You are being removed from office and you are not accepted. Paul Leon has reached the level of evidence where he is subject to a federal prosecution for conspiring my murder. Okay? In doing so, while I have been documenting him by name, the entity that's keeping you under surveillance knows when you are identifying them. And it's relevant, the threat that you're subject to, while you are specifically exposing a terrorist such as the mayor of the city that is engaged in targeting you through every means of that city, every department, the municipality itself, and the population of demons that are gang stalking Paul Leon is subject to and very vulnerable to a federal prosecution for terrorism, conspiring my murder while I've been documenting him by name. And the entity is keeping my evidence under surveillance and targeting me because of that. That's the P.O.C. It is currently 8:16 p.m. Let me add 8XPB467. This is the pattern of conduct in the ARCO employee. 8EIP592 is engaged in gang stalking with this with the entity. Deportation is always a part of what is targeting terrorists. So you're talking about what is doing a sweep regarding, I mean, Mr. Trump can actually have a field day and legitimately do so with regard to what is his being on the right side of the law, regardless of where you stand on his politics, regardless of how you feel about any sort of particular person that may be an immigrant. You need to understand that in California, they are engaged in terrorism and they are committing serial killings with the government that is targeting me. It is happening to me so that I can expose what the gang stalkers, including those that are immigrants, and there is no exception. This is the ability to make categorical conclusions regarding a population. I've shown you the pattern of conduct. It includes the immigrant population. In fact, the government welcomes them because they are more likely to be enslaved with regard to this corrupt system. If they don't conform, then you're not going to get X, Y, and Z benefits, and you're not going to be able to stay. However, the entity is very likely to engage in oppressing. That's not a defense, though. That's not a defense. It's not a defense. This is a malicious system. So it's not that you don't cease to be able to know the difference from right and wrong. And it doesn't matter what language you speak. Okay, a conscience is not based on some or limited by or impeded upon by some sort of linguistic barrier. No, it's not. And you're in this country and you stated that you would uphold the law, that you would honor this Constitution, that you would be in this country and seek to become a fabric of this country, and that you would, in other words, treat with dignity other people and respect other people and respect this Constitution. You lied. And you're getting out of this country. You're being shipped out. And it doesn't matter about what Mr. Trump's politics are. He has jurisdiction under the law to deport them. This is terrorism. It's terrorism. And it's not different when the gang stalker is an immigrant driving by me or sitting next to me or shopping in the same center. They're engaged in gang stalking together. And that entire population is subject to terrorism. And that's because of the size of the crime. It's the government's fault. It's the government's fault. And the government is the people of the state. They expose themselves to this. And justice shall be met. Do not be mad at Mr. Trump for that and ICE. And you know what? The way that they do their job, you know what? There's a lot that is involved in what is justice, what is judgment. Okay, and with regard to what is the ways in which people are, you don't know. All I'm going to state is I've seen a lot of wicked and evil things happen to innocent people, and I have been the recipient on that end. And having to see a lot of the things that you are not aware of, and also I just want to be clear, there's a lot of propaganda in this country regarding what are terrorists that do not like the notion of immigration deportation in the first place. There's a lot of propaganda. So there is a bias there, an inherent bias. But what I will state is that you do not understand everything that is entailed in why people may be subject to the things that they're subject to. And what I can state to in California, and I have the ability to speak to, and I am pretty much the only person that is, I state exactly what I said, the only person that can engage in what is speaking on behalf of the whole state. With regard to what American citizens in the state of California that are engaging in what is targeting people, and you don't like that they are the way in which they're deporting American citizens out of this country, and you don't know what hardships that they're dealing with demons. They're dealing with demons that are already on the wrong side of the law, that already have an adverse, a disdain, if you will, for the law. They don't like this country in the first place. So I just want to be clear, there's a lot of different angles that you are not hearing about while the entity is showing you propaganda, while it is biased regarding this criminal conduct that none of them are talking about. And so while they may be subject to deportation and you may agree or disagree with their methods, you need to understand that there is more that is going on than what you see on the news, than what you're told about. And these are terrorists that are serial killers. They're engaged in what is criminal activity, and it's not based on your language limitations. They're sharing in what is threatening the life of an American citizen with the same police department. They're engaged in kidnapping and criminal summoning with the same entity. It's just that you have the ability to deport a fraction of this population because they've been granted a privilege to be here. They're engaged in terrorism, stalking with impossible light, just like every other demon. And guess what? When you engage in criminal conduct and your co-defendant is committing criminal, guess what happens to you? You're going down for that same crime. But I just want to be clear, there's no innocent people here. It's not innocence. They're not innocently engaging in the pattern of conduct. They're not innocently on the street where everybody else is stalking me with impossible light and molesting me and terrorizing me with impossible light and stalking me everywhere from place to place in helicopters and planes. But the immigrants aren't. They don't know anything about that. They just so happen to be crossing by and maintaining their little trucking company or their little restaurant or maintaining a family picnic or whatever it is that they're doing, and they're not a part of it. No, that's not the case. And that's why I have the body of evidence that I have. There is no exception. There are no anomalies. There is no one that is exempt from it. And the target individual has certainly provided no way of escape from it. And it includes every gang stalking citizen, and that includes the immigrants. And I want to be clear, I have witnessed up close and personal what is a haughty spirit, what is an audacious spirit with regard to engaging and targeting an American citizen like myself, while you are challenging the fact that you would be deported for criminal activity. They scoff at it. And I want to be clear why they scoff at that. This is your true attitude toward this country, toward the Constitution, toward law and order. They have been trained to be terrorists. They've been trained by it. They have been given a privilege that they're not worthy of. And if we could deport what are those that are homegrown terrorists, then I would say that that's a solution as well. But you can't ship those that are homegrown terrorists. We will deal with them. But those that you're going back to wherever you came from. And you go terrorize your own people. You go terrorize that community. They have an affinity for violence, and because they've been accustomed to it, and yes, it is because of the corruption of the U.S. government, absolutely, but that's not a defense for them, and it's not going to grant you ability to stay in this country. Unfortunately, you learn from the wrong people, and you're going to lose your citizenship for it. The entity is not engaged in pivoting. The entity has not engaged in ceasing to target. The entity has not slowed down the pattern of conduct. When I'm documenting gang stalkers that are potential immigrants, what's the entity doing? Stalking me by helicopter? Trying to terrorize and intimidate and threaten me? Guess what? They're being deported even sooner because of that. Even more are going to be deported because of that. The entity has not understood that you are reaping what you sow. They don't understand that. But they will when it happens. And it's already happening. And I said that that was going to happen. And it's going to get worse. And I want to be clear, as someone that has sat and been, I am under no circumstances, I just want to be clear, I do not view myself as a weakling at all. I don't view myself as any sort of victim. You can't just bully me. I know what to say. I know what to access. I know what to do. And these demons engaged in targeting me. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. That is my point. They have no regard for the law, and they have been trained to have that disregard for the law by the corrupt government that's going to be dealt with by federal law. And the way in which you deal with what is the home base is you remove all of those that have been granted the privilege to be here. You can't be here anymore, since this is the problem that we have to deal with. And that's literally the long and short of it. And I want to be clear, it is justice. It's justice. The entity is engaged in what is diabolical conduct. I am speaking as somebody that is the exception. Understand that. Everyone else, that gang stalkers are, guess what? They're dead somewhere. They were subject to the death penalty and they never committed the crime. They're kidnapped somewhere and they've been drugged for so long, they're a vegetable now. They don't even know that they were targeted. They couldn't tell you what happened if they wanted to. They're sitting up, their whole life has already been set up in some prison somewhere. Their whole life is gone. Or like I said, they're 6 feet under. I represent the exception. And there is no exception with regard to engaging in domestic terrorism. I believe the document says enemies, foreign and domestic. There is, under what are our founding documents, no difference with regard to how this country responds to terrorism. There is no difference. The entity that's engaging in targeting people is doing so with those that have been granted a privilege to be here. And when you are engaging in the pattern of conduct, I don't care if you're fearful of losing your benefits because the government's going to target. Guess what? With regard to American citizens, your interests are not trumping the life of an American citizen. And if it comes down to, with regard to what I'm exposing, you versus a targeted individual, guess what? You're being deported. You lose. This is how an entity is maintaining an ongoing system in the first place. Everyone caves in. If someone wants to claim, well, they just did it because they were forced to or they felt like they were forced to. And that's not a defense in court. I murdered somebody because I felt like I was forced to. That's not a defense in court, just so that you know. It's not a defense in court. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and whatever the reasons are, it is demonic. It is torture. It is in furtherance of murder. You don't have, under the law, you don't have any excuse. And you also don't have a basis to be here. And Mr. Trump and the Department of Homeland Security, they have full jurisdiction under the law to deport you. And in case you did not recognize that you were fully vulnerable to that, I'm here to let you know that. And that's what a corrupt government is not going to inform you about when you engage in their pattern of conduct. They cannot help you. They incriminate you. While I'm documenting gang stalking in the city, everybody in that city that's an immigrant is subject to deportation. Do you not understand that? No, you don't. You don't. But that's what's happening. And I've been documenting it for years. And not only that, having studied this, having been subject to it. Those that are immigrants in this country, I just want to be clear. They engage in targeting not with any level of passivity or some level of being apologetic, which doesn't help the target individual in the first place anyway. But I'm just stating that to say they engage in what is this conduct with a level of audacity as though they were convinced they were getting away with it. They scoffed when I even mentioned a deportation policy as though you have a right, not a privilege, but a right, an irrevocable right to be here and target another American citizen. And you do not. You have been lied to. You have been lied to. So I just want to be clear. You are being fed propaganda, and it is not about Mr. Trump's politics. It's not even about what are his personal ideas, whether they're rooted in bigotry or not. Under the law, I am here in California. Every single last immigrant is gang stalking, every single last one of them. And they engage in targeting me when I go over such deportation policies because they actually have a hatred for this country, which stands on law and anti-terrorism policies. You don't even belong here. You don't like it, but guess what? That's what this country is actually about. This country is actually not about terrorism. And you're doing so with the government that's creating evidence against you, okay? So I just want to be clear on that. The entity creating light activity while the Ontario International Airport is stalking by flying over the parking lot, where light is gang stalking on Lemon Avenue, where ARCO is gang stalking, license 8 EIP 592, and where the ARCO employee is gang stalking, and so is Starbucks QCD is gang stalking, creating light activity. This is P.O.C. This is the same parking lot where the Ontario Police Department is flying over my head, and flying over the whole parking lot. They fly over the top of my head while you see a fake sun in this same parking lot where they're maintaining that fake sunrise and fake sunset. That's the entity that's engaging in what is the criminal conduct, which it is engaging with the immigrant population who are going to be removed from this country. They pose a threat to American citizens. They pose a threat to what is American society, and it is entirely, unfortunately, it is pretty much morally bankrupt and entirely, corrupted because of what has long existed that I am exposing. And I've been exposing it for a long time because the government has sought to obstruct justice for a prolonged period. And that's where people like Jason Isaac Fields of the federal government, they're going to prison for gang stalking me while I have been reporting for years what I have been subject to. And I should have been dead based on Satan's agenda. And the federal government has posed that ongoing threat to my life. And you're not avoiding federal prison for that. Okay, there is no way to quantify a government that is actively seeking to murder you. There's no way to quantify that. And when you are prosecuting the government, in no less than federal prison, you're being locked up for what is an act of terrorism. The government that targets an American citizen does so with basically a pretty sure shot at accomplishing what is murder that no one is ever going to question. You're going to prison for that. Okay, the entity is doing it with the immigrant population. The immigrant population that has been brought here under false pretenses because they're going right back to wherever they came from, where they are being placed in a vulnerable position because they are of the first that are easily resolved with regard to neutralizing a threat posed by a gang stalking population, a mentally ill population. A population conspiring the murder of an American citizen. You're going to deport as many of them as possible. And it includes the entire state of California. And now you need to keep that in proper perspective with regard to the propaganda that you're seeing. And what is also irrelevant is Mr. Trump's politics with regard to what is criminal conduct that the immigrant population is actually engaging in California. Okay? California. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:31 p.m. This is Cool Transports. That's gang stalking. You already know that. Cool Transports is another gang stalking company, just like Allied Universal. All right? Just like QCD, creating light activity, and Cool Transport's license plate is, I'm gonna actually go ahead and document them. Cool Transport's license plate is 89887W3. All right, that's light activity, audible activity, and relevant positioning while they maintain what is actually demonic. And on the surface, you're looking at what is the provision of services to a facilitating venue that is also gang stalking ARCO. All right, and this is exposing what is public corruption, and it is a simultaneous accumulation of evidence in a federal RICO case. This is P.O.C. It's currently 8:31 p.m. All right, the venue light on Lemon Avenue, Cool Transports, and ARCO CHEVRON, the ARCO employee 8 EIP 592. The CHEVRON employee whose license I also read, I'll go ahead and recite it again. This is license plate let me see, 7XIY347. And the demons that are filling the parking lot of the ARCO, they're all monitoring with the entity that's molesting right now. Molesting while Cool Transports and QCD at Starbucks and Cool Transports at ARCO, maintaining peculiarized light, the flashing light and the engineered light. That's the entity that's engaged in light activity creation pursuant to monitoring. And these are demons who exhibit mental illness while they engage in that behavioral pattern in a specific environment. They're engaging in a sexual assault and battery. And every company is engaged in Starbucks, Chevron, ARCO, Cool Transports, QCD, the entity that's engaged in that, and they're doing so while I'm uploading the evidence online. That's relevant to the sex offense that they're engaging in, molesting you with light, pursuant to monitoring you, and a stalker is doing that. And a stalker is doing so as a state actor, either a third party or acting directly, but it is all state action. It's 8:36 p.m. at 434 North Euclid Avenue. All right, molesting again while demons are driving in a direction that they think is going to make an explanation for molesting with impossible light, and it is not. They are always stalking, and they're always demons stalking with impossible light activity. This is what they're all doing under a fake sun, and none of it is sunlight. Like I stated, though, this is the entity that is stalking together. The ARCO and CHEVRON, Stater Brothers is gang stalking, but that's not where I'm at right now with regard to relevant positioning and my presence. Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Light. They are all outside engaging what are the elements of monitoring. Doing so as an entity is sharing in what is psychopathic behavior. Maintaining presence in alignment to where I'm standing. This is what you're doing when you're stalking in the path using planes and helicopters. This is the significance of flying toward where I'm positioned and then making a U-turn when they get in alignment with me and going back. That's demonic pacing. That's what the entity is doing with regard to standing around, pumping air in their bicycle. They're getting in perfect alignment with me. Parked on the side of the road, on the opposite side of the parking lot. They're doing so in alignment with me. The entity that's engaged in what is maintaining a delivery, for example, at a venue where I'm in alignment with them. They will have their delivery arranged to that time as a malicious iteration of the pattern of conduct in a commercial capacity. And they're stalking in the path, stalking with light activity. And the cover is supposed to be, oh, we're making a delivery that the target individual doesn't have any relation to. And or it could be something that's just at the same time where they always make that delivery. It's still the pattern of conduct. The entity is engaging in the specific environment where that behavioral pattern is present. And there's no coincidences at all. Not only that, the entity appropriates its pattern of conduct to whatever the circumstances are. Okay, and that is making a delivery, like coming in a Brinks security vehicle at the facilitating venue, so somebody that's bearing weapons can engage in what is simultaneously posing a threat, gang stalking under the fake sun. You can deliver in the middle of the night. You are still in what is engineer light, and you're gang stalking. You intentionally did that while you're bearing weapons, and that's going to be noted when you're federally prosecuted, because people that are gang stalking bearing weapons are going to prison. It is currently 8:40 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, molesting license 9GQH994. Those are demons that are monitoring together. It is 8:50 p.m. at 434 North Euclid Avenue. They're sharing a molestation with the population. Again, that's 9GQW994. I already posted on X right now. This demon has been flying, stalking over this sky space where the light. They are gang stalking, psychopaths, molesting with impossible light, filling this parking lot. A demon comes to the veterinary clinic, stalking with impossible light. You'll see the helicopter over the building while she's stalking in the path, being a sex offender. So is CHEVRON and ARCO. And the entity is engaging in what is maintaining ongoing helicopter activity, flying over the top of my head again, just like they did in this parking lot at what was approximately 9:30 this morning. And that's the entity that's stalking by plane. Very foolish conduct, but this is the mental illness that you need to be aware of. This mental illness is coexisting with what is the pattern of stalking with light, molesting your body with light, and they're doing that in an environment that is abnormal. Here's my shadow over here, and here's my shadow over here. That's a demon-possessed person that's engaged in what is readily identifiable criminal activity as the City of Ontario. The Ontario Board and the Ontario Executive Team is being removed. They're going to be prosecuted as co-conspirators of murder. Mike LORENZ, Derek Williams, who's sharing the conspiracy to commit murder as a gang-stalking police department, which is not a police department, not engaged in law enforcement. They're engaged in state surveillance. They have a documented pattern of stalking me, terrorizing me, harassing me by flying around me repeatedly, engaging what is a public nuisance upon what is gang stalking me as demon-possessed people that are conspiring my murder together. That's why they've engaged in what is a documented pattern of kidnapping as well, doing things like arriving at venues where I'm at where they are stalking and then claiming that they were told something and that's why they are in my presence. That's what the entity did on September 28, 2025, where they are gang stalking me, just like this, at the Ontario Town Town Square by the Ontario International Airport that's engaged in what is stalking, flying in my path, and then making a U-turn, flying over Sarah's Regis, who I'm going to prosecute. And the entity engaged in what is lying, stating that I was harassing someone, and I documented that. Today, stating that I was yelling in the bathroom, and I documented the fact that that didn't happen either. This is the entity that is entirely mentally deranged. These are sex offenders, predators, monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, molesting my person with impossible light while they're engaging in what is massive surveillance. All these people are conspiring murder together, stalking as a population. Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted, the first in this country, as a domestic terrorist masquerading as a police chief. He is not a police chief, and I'm going to prosecute him, and his mental illness is going to be proven by the criminal activity of this agency, stalking as demons in a specific environment, things as absurd, which is directly relevant to his demented mind state under a fake sun, stalking using helicopters, stalking while masquerading as police officers while they are absurdly mentally ill, and doing so while they kept the evidence under surveillance. That is, they are flying over my head and stalking me while I'm publishing the evidence about them targeting me on the internet. That is directly relevant to the mental illness that terrorists like Derek Williams and Mike Lorenz share, and every gang stalker that are engaged in kidnapping and criminal summoning, like I documented this agency engaging in today. By the way, at this same venue, gang stalking at this parking lot at Chevron this morning, gang stalking me flying over my head by helicopter this morning, gang stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library with sex offenders like this who are stalking in bathrooms and claiming that I am yelling at them or claiming that I'm harassing them. P.O.C. License plate 9DHG616. That's a mentally ill psychopath. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is the entity flying over my head again while I'm documenting sex offenders that are gang stalking. The entity is engaging in what is ongoing clear targeting as terrorists conspiring murder that have a disregard for prosecution as a terrorist while seeking to conceal itself as a police department. You're looking at their true attitude toward the law and toward the Constitution and toward service of American citizens that they're supposed to be serving and protecting. This is the demon that is flying over me again, flying over me on the opposite side of the street when I was standing over there. Now I'm on this side of the street. This is clear targeting. It's also unmistakable targeting in the specific environment. In this parking lot, unmistakable targeting flying over my head in this parking lot, this whole parking lot. And where are they flying over? They're flying over the top of my head. This is an entity that does so as I'm documenting sex offenders, okay? So I'm going to give you the license plate of the sex offender that is threatening my life, engaging what is the conspiracy to murder in concert with that police. That's license 7, Thomas Victor George 852. And I'm documenting this sex offender while they are gang stalking me, molesting me with impossible light while driving behind this parking lot right here, which is where demons are coming in, and that's supposed to be the forum for molesting with light, and it's not. You see them driving on the street when they're under what is a fake sun, and that's not the explanation for the light that's moving all across Sarah's Regis Group, who's going to be prosecuted for gang stalking. This has nothing to do with the artificial lights that are on the building. Those lights do not create multiple shadows. These are demons that are stalking in the path, and they're sex offenders, including license 7, Thomas Victor George 852, who's subject to federal prison while conspiring my murder with Mike Lorenz, that entire agency that is targeting me while they are flying repeatedly over my head, threatening my life, my safety, my well-being, and my liberty while they are always engaging what is harassing me and threatening to engage in kidnapping, just like they did on September 28, 2025, where they made up information, and then upon not even having any information, when they approached me with it, they still unlawfully searched me, battered me, and kidnapped me that day. That's what the entity is posing while they are both stalking me, using helicopters to do so, and while they're also engaging what is criminal summoning at the Open Family Community Library. Mike Lorenz has no problem showing you that he is an enemy of the United States. That's what is being communicated when they are repeatedly targeting me in concert with the people of the state, the domestic terrorist license 7, Thomas Victor George 852. And I want to be clear, they share that criminal system with gang stalking immigrants who are not going to be spared. They're going to be deported, okay? This is the pattern of conduct. That criminal conduct by that agency is speaking to the necessity, how it is mandated, absolutely imperative to deport the domestic terrorists that are the immigrants gang stalking in the city of Ontario and throughout the state of California. With that same disdain, that same disregard of the law and the rights of another, they shall be deported out of this country. And the government's criminal conduct is the basis and support for deporting the immigrants that are in the state of California. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:35 p.m. License plate 7FOR790, I believe, molesting with the entity that's engaged in what is taking specifically F Street to Euclid to engage in what is sexual assault and battery as an entity that is stalking me by plane over the bus stop, doing so with bucket, crab, and crawfish, demons that are engaging what is molestation while they are in the path, and inexplicable light is molesting my person in the absence of the demons driving on Euclid and F Street because it's not their headlights in the first place. In the same way, when you see them stalking with impossible light at 320 North Euclid Avenue this morning, that's not sunlight either. Those are demons, and that's the presence of what are demonic spirits that are engaging what is supernatural behavior. These are demon-possessed people, and that is proven to you through the impossible light activity. And bucket, crab, and crawfish is sharing in sexual assault and battery. This is the entity that's gang stalking 602 North Euclid Avenue, 115 North F Street. The Apostolic Profetica Iglesia gang stalking immigrants are going to be deported out of this country, where I'm subject to this sex offense by the demons that are in relevant position to that venue, stalking with light, doing so while they know exactly who I am and still targeting me while you're enforcing your right. That's a population that is speaking to the fact that they want to be deported. They're going to be deported, while your criminal activity is speaking to that which is necessitating that, and that is also your communication to the government, to this country, that you don't want to be here, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It is currently 11:59 p.m. You have another one engaging in the same. This is the entity that's engaging in that together. This is mental illness. This is what they do with the stalk with helicopter activity. This is what they do with the stalking with planes and helicopter, and it's mental illness. This is an entity that's stalking. License plate 7VPS 897 P.O.C. These are stalkers. This isn't traffic. This is surveillance. That's why they have the impossible light, the fake sun. These are demons that are engaging in what is sexual violence. Ooh, I want to go touch the demon. I want to go touch with the impossible light activity. This is what a demon is desiring to do when they're coming near me in order to engage in what is stalking me and engaging in what is a form of harassment by psychopaths that stalk you with impossible light. That's what they're doing. They're engaging in nothing other than pacing all around. Okay, a demon will do that while they live in that neighborhood, and that's supposed to make it appear as though, oh, it's necessary because I live over here. That's what the entity is doing with regard to gang stalking as a commercial venue. The entity can come from Nevada. They will take F Street and Euclid Avenue to stalk Erica Lorraine Spencer, and that's proven through a specific environment. And the absurd light activity. They're going to be prosecuted and also what is mentally examined. Okay, this is based on the psychopathic behavior of stalking with light, and this is proven to be what is relevant to criminal monitoring and also mental illness that poses a threat to themselves and each other. This is a suicidal population. You are looking at them serve toward their own demise while they're gang stalking, and they are going to be suffering the most severe penalties for it. This is actual suicidal conduct, as opposed to the propaganda that you've been told about suicidal ideation that is caused by somebody that's mentally ill. That's somebody that's being spiritually attacked by demons who engage in gang stalking, by the way. The demon possessed are actually suicidal. Suicidal conduct is that which you're engaging in, which is detrimental to your own interests. When you are so much concerned with another person and you are even harming your own self, your own future, and those that are relying upon you, that's suicidal conduct. Even to the point to where you may lose your life and you're still engaging in that which is not serving your interests, that's suicidal conduct. The entity that engages in what is spiritually attacking people that don't know that they're subject to it, voices telling them to take their life, voices telling them to harm themselves, voices telling them that they should do something to themselves or that they are worth nothing, they're being spiritually attacked, and that's what the demon-possessed practice. The demon-possessed that are gang stalking, the demon-possessed that are stalking in helicopters and planes, they practice witchcraft, they spiritually attack you. This is what the demon-possessed practice, and they do it so that you would take your own life, and that is a spiritual attack. This is actual suicidal behavior, what the demon-possessed are exhibiting, while they are being exposed all over the World Wide Web. That is, Mike Lorenz is suicidal, okay? The demon-possessed that are gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library, they're suicidal. The demon-possessed that are stalking with impossible light on camera under a fake sun, that's in the same position 12 hours, they're suicidal. P.O.C.